A harsh sun beats down on a desolate, rocky landscape. Suddenly, a monstrous hydra looms over a group of terrified warriors. The soldiers stand their ground, preparing to face the impossible threat. In the ensuing chaos, one man carves a bloody path through his enemies. His face is splattered with blood, but his eyes remain cold and focused. He brings his sword down, delivering a brutal and decisive final blow. A dark, intense aura surrounds him as he glares at the remaining foes. The horrified soldiers can only call him a monstrous bastard, but the relentless battle has taken its toll, leaving him wounded and hunched over. Seeing their chance, the enemy horde charges, screaming for his death. He feels his heart pounding on the very brink of giving out. Every ragged breath he takes feels like a knife scraping his throat. He can no longer tell the difference between the blood and sweat on his skin. All his senses are screaming that this life-or-death struggle is real. At his lowest point, a series of hidden traits suddenly activate. Yet the enemy swarms him, determined to kill the worn-out warrior. He lets out a final roar, accepting that this brutal fight is his reality. The scene abruptly shifts to instant noodles and soda cans on a desk. A lone figure is seen sitting in a gaming chair, staring at a monitor. On the screen, the words "Game Over" flash above a defeated character. He leans back in his chair, screaming in frustration at the screen. His entire life revolves around this desk and his messy, dark room. After quitting his job months ago, he just stares out the window. He became a shut-in, living and breathing only for the game. This addiction has consumed him for the last 5 years. His life has become a legendary failure, all for a single game. The game is called Pangania, a fantasy world that once held promise. It promised to grant one wish to whoever cleared it, but no one ever has. Pangania was infamous for its brutal, unforgiving difficulty. Players faced impossible bosses that could wipe out entire parties. Even companions couldn't be trusted, often betraying you in an instant. Getting a bounty meant being hunted down relentlessly by powerful NPCs. But the worst feature was permadeath. One death meant losing everything. Because of its insane difficulty, the game's popularity vanished overnight. He begins to suspect the game is designed to be impossible to clear. All his progress, including 8 unique items, vanished in a single moment. But as he stares at the screen, he notices something unexpected. His character is deleted, but he's awarded 1.6 million soul points. He's stunned by the massive amount, far more than all his past deaths combined. The game has a system that rewards players with SP based on their dead character's value. These soul points can be invested into talents when creating a new character. He remembers a past character, a grandmaster of swordsmanship who still died. With 1.6 million SP, he realizes he can invest in everything. Normally, he'd play it safe with a magic build for a stable run. But this time, he decides to go for something completely random. Convinced he'll never clear it, he decides to just have fun one last time. A painful memory surfaces, a woman apologizing to him. He remembers his confusion, not understanding what she meant. She bluntly told him she couldn't date someone with no future. She was at the age where marriage was on her mind. All her friends were with successful men from big companies. And then there was him, a stark contrast to them all. He could only look down, crushed by her words. With a sigh, she decided the conversation was over and stood to leave. Her final words, "I hope you have a nice life," echoed in his mind. And just like that, she walked out of the cafe in his life. That was 3 months ago, the day his 5-year relationship ended. Heartbroken and angry, he quit his dead-end job. He locked himself in his room, escaping into the world of Pangania. But now, staring at the screen, he tells himself the patheticness ends today. With a final, defiant click, he commits to the random character build. Soul points drain rapidly as the system reconfigures his stats in a flash of light. Suddenly, an unexpected message appears. A hidden piece has been activated. He's stunned by an invitation to Pangania for satisfying a singularity. His world distorts as he's violently pulled through the screen into the game. An enraged voice screams a curse against a wicked god echoing in his mind. He collapses, clutching his head as the unfamiliar voice causes him immense pain. Gritting his teeth, he struggles to understand what's happening to him. He realizes with horror that the powerful, angry voice is inside his own head. Overwhelmed, he falls to the floor of his messy room, losing consciousness. As he lies passed out, his computer monitor glows with an eerie red light. A cryptic message appears, addressing a being of creation and destruction. The final words on the screen wish him happiness in the world of Pangania. He awakens to a sharp pain as a taskmaster whips him, calling him a useless slave. The brute threatens to feed him to the Hydreigon if he falters again. His eyes widen in shock and disbelief at the mention of that familiar name. A colossal, scaly foot slams into the ground right next to him. He sees countless other slaves being driven forward under the lash. Utterly bewildered, he stares around, trying to grasp his new, terrifying reality. He finally sees them, the monstrous Hydreigons, just like in the game. The taskmaster screams at him to get back in formation, lashing out with his whip. He falls to his knees as the brute threatens him with death for his defiance. The searing pain makes him realize this isn't a dream. His new reality is harsh. He confirms the Hydreigons are identical to the monsters from Pangea. Even the desolate canyon around him feels eerily familiar from his time in the game. Testing a wild theory, he mentally summons his status window. A glowing blue interface appears before him, invisible to the other slaves. His eyes widen in disbelief as the impossible truth begins to sink in. The window displays a dizzying array of stats, talents, and hidden traits. It's undeniable, he's no longer in his room but has truly entered Pangea. He stares in shock, realizing the game's system is now a part of his world. He questions why all his stats are at 12, far exceeding the normal starting range. More impossibly, he discovers he possesses 13 active hidden traits. Overwhelmed by his seemingly broken character, he tries to process what's happening. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake violently beneath everyone's feet. An enemy army appears, led by the fearsome Desert Queen breaking a truce. A powerful woman with red-streaked hair stands atop a Hydreigon, commanding the attack. He recognizes her as the Snake Princess, a notorious figure from the game. As chaos erupts, a new system message flashes before his eyes. A main quest has begun. His face pales as he reads the quest's single terrifying objective: survive. A storm of arrows suddenly darkens the sky, raining down on the battlefield. The volley tears through the ranks of slaves who scream in agony as they fall. Amidst the chaos, he stands untouched, watching the slaughter unfold. His eyes widen in horror, the brutal reality of his situation finally hitting him. Suddenly, a new trait activates: Heart of the Iron-Blooded Monarch. This power prevents exhaustion and keeps him from being caught off guard. It also allows him to rapidly assess the battlefield, even as bodies pile up. He knows that to stay still is to die. He must fight to survive. Without hesitation, he lunges for a sword lying next to a fallen soldier. His hand closes around the hilt, and the blade begins to glow with power. A brilliant teal aura explodes around him as he prepares for his first real fight. An enemy warrior immediately charges, swinging a scimitar at his head. He effortlessly parries the blow, sending his attacker reeling backward. With a single fluid motion, he cuts the man down. Now glowing with power, his eyes burn with a new, dangerous intensity. Another hidden trait activates, revealing him as a weapon master. Enraged, the taskmaster roars and charges, aiming to crush the defiant slave. He easily sidesteps the brute's clumsy attack, letting the weapon slam into the dirt. In a flash, he disarms the taskmaster, sending the man's spear flying. Catching the weapon, he's shocked by how natural it feels in his hands. He realizes he can wield any weapon like a seasoned expert. Another enemy lunges forward, swinging his axe with brutal force. But the protagonist moves with an unnatural grace, dodging the attack. He grits his teeth as another power begins to awaken within him. As he blocks another blow, his senses heighten to a new level. A strange blue energy flows through him, sharpening his perception. His eyes glow as he can now perfectly predict his enemy's every move. He easily ducks under a sword swing, seeing its path before it's even thrown. With perfect timing, he drives his blade straight through his opponent's chest. He then snatches an axe from a fallen foe, his arsenal growing. The last attacker watches in terror as the axe comes swinging down. The man's desperate plea is cut short by a final brutal strike. Now armed with 2 weapons, he stands panting amidst the carnage. The remaining soldiers stare in disbelief, calling him an absolute monster. A new trait, Masterful Hands, rapidly boosts his weapon proficiency to level 6. He understands that at this level, he can fight like a legendary knight. But he knows this miraculous power won't be enough to last forever. He faces an army of 500 soldiers, realizing his survival quest is impossible. The scene suddenly cuts to a dark throne room where a red-haired woman is held captive. A mysterious queen on the throne coldly remarks on the failure of an expedition to the demon world. The queen's glowing red eye pierces the darkness as she questions the Snake Princess. With a somber expression, the captive woman confirms the queen's suspicions. The queen explains that if their non-participation is discovered, their city will be blamed for the failure. She orders the Snake Princess to the Kaltzman Desert to eliminate every last survivor. Their mission is to erase all evidence connecting them to the disastrous expedition. As motivation, the Queen promises to lift the princess's curse upon her success. The Snake Princess grits her teeth and reluctantly accepts the grim task. From her throne, the Queen issues a final, chilling command: "You cannot fail." The scene returns to the desert, where the Snake Princess now oversees the aftermath. She asks a subordinate kneeling before her if the slaughter is complete. The soldier nervously reports that a single slave is somehow still alive. Her eyes widen in disbelief at the news of one lone survivor. On the battlefield, the protagonist stands exhausted over a pile of bodies, the last man standing. Suddenly, a system window announces he has reached level 2. His health, mana, and stamina are instantly restored, and he stands renewed and ready. He glares at the remaining soldiers, telling them to get out of his way. The soldiers look up in awe as the Snake Princess arrives on her colossal mount. He looks up, recognizing the infamous NPC, thinking she's finally arrived. Her full name is revealed in a dramatic shot: Isabella von Dersian. A status window appears, showing she's a level 8 powerhouse cursed by the Queen. He realizes he's facing a level 8 opponent, a fight he can't possibly win. In Pangania, the power gap from level 7 onward is nearly insurmountable. A level 8 is on par with the final boss of a major organization. He knows that confronting her now is nothing short of a disaster. The Snake Princess steps forward, ready to end the lone survivor's life. She looks down on him, admitting his little show was interesting. But with a chilling aura, she declares that he has to die now. He reflects on why he was so obsessed with the brutally difficult game. It was because he loved finding ways to conquer the impossible. He smirks, remembering his reputation as a master of hard games. Isabella lunges forward, a blur of motion aimed to kill. She brings her blade down in a devastating high-speed strike. But he calmly asks if she wants to lift the Queen's curse. He effortlessly stops her blade with his bare hand, a strange power glowing. Her eyes widen in fury and disbelief as her attack is completely nullified. Stunned, she can only stare at the man who stopped her strongest blow. She grits her teeth and demands to know who he really is. He calmly explains that he reads the stars and guides others to them. Introducing himself as the Star-Bearer, he offers to break her curse. Isabella is left utterly speechless, her mind reeling from his impossible claim. He inwardly celebrates as his risky bluff pays off. He reveals the Star-Bearer is an NPC class needed to transcend the max level. To break her curse, she needs the blessing of stars, something only a Star-Bearer can grant. Isabella trembles, forced to listen if she ever wants to be free. He was certain she'd cooperate for one very specific reason. In a shocking twist, he reveals Isabella is a character that he himself created. The Queen's curse was just a game mechanic to trap players in the starting zone. But a player's character is meant to be free, to travel the world and see the ending. Instead, he had left this character trapped in a cage bound by the curse. Breaking the silence, Isabella finally asks for his name. He confidently introduces himself as Randolph, and a system window confirms it. Isabella turns away, agreeing to postpone his execution for now. But she walks off with a stern warning over her shoulder. If he's lying, she promises to personally rip him into pieces. She orders her soldiers to escort him as an honored guest, completing his survival quest. The system calculates his results, calling his performance a record-breaking miracle. His rewards are upgraded twice, granting him 3 powerful new items. The tension finally breaks and he collapses to the ground, realizing he survived. His score is so high that his result is added to the main quest, Hall of Fame. The scene shifts to a moonlit castle, his new destination as an honored guest. Now in a luxurious bath, he begins to review his incredible quest rewards. He marvels at receiving 2 legendary items, the Soul of the Hydreigon and the Sword of Mikola. But the third item, a broken piece of the golden scale, confuses him with its strange ability to synchronize reality and Pangania. Suddenly the doors burst open and 3 beautiful women enter, leaving him completely stunned. The chambermaids smile and offer to wash him, holding out towels. He cautiously agrees to let them wash his feet, realizing this is a test from Isabella. As one of the women begins to gently scrub his foot, he tries to remain composed. He knows they are Isabella's spies and any reaction will expose his bluff. To maintain his Star-Bearer persona, he forces himself to stay calm and show no desire. While washing him, one of the chambermaids suddenly lets out a gasp of shock. She accidentally activated his status window, which has appeared right in front of her. The window reveals a shocking leaderboard and a warning that the boundary between Pangenia and reality is shattering. Having seen his title, the confused chambermaid asks him what a star-bearer is. He stares in disbelief, not at her question, but at the names he saw on the leaderboard. He recognizes two of the names as old friends who disappeared from the game years ago. His eyes widen as another, even more shocking realization dawns on him. A system message announces that by ranking in the survival quest, he has unlocked the logout feature. With fierce determination, he realizes he can finally leave this damned game. He orders the confused chambermaids to leave, claiming it's time for him to communicate with the stars. He warns them that if he doesn't, he'll lose his power, daring them to ask the princess if she'd risk that. The chambermaids retreat, wishing him a comfortable time communicating with the stars. Alone in the bath, he breathes a sigh of relief that his shabby excuse actually worked. He steps out of the water, admitting he was terrified of being stuck in the game forever. With a determined look, he reaches for the glowing blue logout button to escape. A system message warns that if his character dies, he dies in real life before the logout completes. He awakens not to his room, but to a view of his city engulfed in fire and chaos. People scream and flee in terror as monstrous silhouettes rampage through the burning streets. A giant insect-like creature with glowing red eyes emerges from the inferno. Back in his real body, he stares out his window in utter shock and disbelief. Suddenly, a different monster with a reptilian head and glowing eyes appears right outside his window. The creature lets out a terrifying screech, its mouth splitting open like a grotesque flower. He recoils in terror, falling backward onto his bed to escape the horrifying sight. His mind races as he questions why monsters from Pangenia have invaded the real world. As he scrambles back, a small golden object falls from his pocket onto the bed. It's the broken piece of the golden scale, the item that synchronizes the two worlds. Disoriented, he sits up in his gaming chair, trying to make sense of his surroundings. He looks at his familiar messy room, wondering if he just fell asleep and dreamt everything. He tries to dismiss it all, convinced that entering a game world is just a fantasy. But his eyes land on his desk, spotting items from the game sitting next to his keyboard. He picks up the golden scale, his face filled with horror as he realizes it was all real. He frantically searches for his phone, desperate to check the game's status. His eyes widen in shock as he realizes the Pangania homepage has completely vanished. His thoughts are shattered by terrified screams echoing from the streets below. Peeking out his window, he sees a monstrous insect creature rampaging through the burning city. A news report confirms the nightmare. Unidentified monsters are attacking, and police are powerless. A desperate idea forms as he stares at the golden scale on his bed. If monsters are real, he realizes, then maybe the items from the game can be used too. He grabs the items and a holographic display of his legendary rewards appears before him. He clutches the Hydreigon's soul, frustrated that a simple double click won't work in reality. Suddenly, a system window for the golden scale appears, explaining its synchronization power. He knows his current body is useless, but the scale offers a chance to change that. He activates the item, and a brilliant light engulfs him as his body synchronizes with his game character, Randolph. A system notification confirms the synchronization is active for the next 24 hours. The scene cuts to the war-torn streets, littered with the bodies of the fallen. A mother desperately flees the chaos, clutching her young daughter tightly. The little girl asks for her father, but her mother can only urge her to keep running. Their escape is cut short as a nearby building collapses, sending debris raining down. The mother is crushed by the falling rubble, and the little girl is thrown to the ground. Mortally wounded, the mother uses her last breath to tell her daughter to run. A woman in a torn business suit rushes toward the crying child, asking if she's okay. The dying mother begs the woman to save her child with her last breath. Overcome with grief, the woman promises the fallen mother she'll protect her daughter. But a flower-mouthed monster lunges, ready to devour them both. The woman braces for impact, believing this is the end for her and the child. In a blur of motion, a mysterious figure swoops in and pulls them to safety. It's the protagonist, who effortlessly cleaves the monster in two with a glowing blade. The woman clutches the child, stunned and relieved that she somehow survived. She stares at her savior's back, wondering who this powerful man could be. Another insectoid beast charges, aiming to crush the small group of survivors. The woman screams a desperate warning for him to watch out. He's swatted aside by the creature's massive leg, sent flying through the air. As he falls, the woman watches in awe as a colossal shadow forms behind him. From the soul item, a monstrous 9-headed Hydreigon is summoned to the battlefield. The protagonist lands atop one of its heads, calmly telling the beast to stay still. The woman stares in utter disbelief, questioning if what she's seeing is even real. The little girl breaks free, running toward her mother's body in tears. The Hydra gun unleashes its fury, decimating the swarms of insect monsters. A montage reveals this is a global invasion, with monsters destroying cities worldwide. However, powerful warriors have also appeared, fighting back against the apocalypse. One hero raises his glowing sword, vowing to protect the innocent from the new world of monsters. As the world changes, a man scoffs at a news report of heroes uniting. In a lavish apartment, he calls them idiots for wasting their golden scale fragments. This player, known as Massacre, confirms that Pangania and reality are merging. He clenches his fist, knowing a new age of chaos has begun where only the strong will rule. His attention turns to the survival quest rankings, where Randolph holds first place. He stares at the name, wondering if this Randolph is the legendary player Phantom. A flashback reveals Phantom, the first player to lead an expedition to the Demon Realm. Though he was the undisputed #1 player, his quest ended in a brutal failure. Massacre realizes Phantom must have been reborn as Randolph, retaining all his talents. He grins, finally understanding how Randolph achieved such an impossibly high score. Meanwhile, Randolph reflects in the bath, realizing players now inhabit their game characters. He closes his eyes as the full picture of his new reality becomes terrifyingly clear. He recalls his past life as Phantom, who came so close to beating the game. But his expedition was sabotaged by hired mercenaries and betrayed by his own companions. A shocking thought hits him. What if those NPCs were actually other summoned players? He stands, realizing the rivals who targeted him before are likely still his enemies now. With the boundary between worlds gone, he knows he can't just hide after logging out. To ensure his safety, he decides he must grow stronger, and quickly. He confidently strides into the throne room, where Isabella asks if he's done with the stars. He declares he's here to keep his promise, and she responds with a satisfied smile. But Randolph stops her, saying he has one condition. He demands that she take him to the sanctuary, leaving her stunned. She calls him insane, but he reveals his next quest is to obtain a class. With a confident smirk, he explains the class he wants is in the sanctuary. Isabella questions if the star he needs is truly there, and he confirms it's hidden. He knows its exact location from his time as his previous character, Phantom. She protests that no one can enter, but he reminds her that she has access. He reflects on his successful gamble, knowing his head would be rolling if she'd refused. After a journey, Isabella leads him into a dark cavern, announcing they've arrived. He stares down a foreboding staircase into the purple haze of the holy ground. System windows warn him that he's underleveled, and the area is full of poison. But his hidden trait, Giant's Demon Resistance, activates, protecting him from the toxic energy. He knows a normal level 2 player couldn't survive here, considering his options, but he dismisses the subquest, stepping forward with a greater purpose in mind. This is where he can complete his main quest and finally obtain a class. He grins, knowing he's about to acquire a very specific and powerful class. Isabella leads the way with a knowing smile, seemingly testing him. She suddenly stops him, pointing out he's taken the wrong path for a starbearer. She reveals the bridge ahead is a trap with powerful air currents. Turning to mock him, she's met with a smug grin as he asks if she's scared. Her eyes widen in shock, completely caught off guard by his accusation. She angrily denies it, claiming the Snake Princess knows no fear, but he just calls her timid. She fakes a leg cramp to avoid the bridge, but he simply offers to carry her on his back. Enraged by his audacity, she asks if he has a death wish, but he calmly reminds her of her cramp. He explains they're out of time and will be hunted, making it faster for him to carry her. Grumbling about her fake injury, she reluctantly climbs onto his back. He tells her to hold on tight and plants his foot, ready to make a move. He suddenly sprints forward and she screams that he's going the wrong way. Without warning, he leaps off the cliff into the abyss, much to her horror. A system window appears as his eye glows, activating his hidden trait. Mutant. This power allows him to see all secrets, revealing a hidden glowing path before them. He lands safely on the invisible bridge, calmly telling her this is the real path. Isabella is stunned, questioning how he knows this path and is unaffected by the sanctuary's poison. He teases her about having a fear of heights, and she angrily tells him to shut up. As he complains she's heavy, she realizes his confidence isn't just about being strong. She feels like he's not just navigating a dungeon, but returning to a familiar place. Leaning in close, she finally asks him if they have met before. He gives a cryptic answer as they run up a glowing staircase, leaving her confused. His hand begins to glow as he explains that he has seen her before. He finishes his sentence with a powerful flash. But you have never seen me. They finally arrive at a beautiful sunlit meadow at the end of the hidden path. He explains this is a domain barrier, and he knows exactly what lies ahead. Suddenly, a single glowing red eye pierces the darkness before them. From the ground, an army of monstrous stone golems begins to rise. The Guardian's chest glows with a powerful, fiery rune, signaling its immense strength. He realizes this is an upper-tier golem, and even a graze would mean instant death for him. He smirks at Isabella, who tells him to shut up and watch what she can do. The Stone Guardians charge forward, their massive fists ready to crush the intruders. Isabella stands her ground as a golem brings its colossal fist down upon her. With blinding speed, she unleashes a powerful attack that slices through the golem's arm. The stone arm shatters into countless pieces from the force of her strike. She calmly declares that this fight will be over in an instant. With incredible agility, she leaps through the air, dodging the falling debris. She gracefully lands on another golem, running up its body to strike the core. Randolph watches with a smug grin, impressed by the character he himself created. Glowing cracks spread across the golem's body as her attack finds its mark. In a final, explosive move, she demonstrates the overwhelming power of a level 8 player. As the golems crumble, a system window suddenly appears before Randolph. It offers him the Golem Maker class, recognizing Isabella's kill as his own. He considers the offer, knowing Golem Maker is a rare and high-tier summoner class, but he instantly declines the offer, stating it's not the class he wants. He knows the being who can grant his true class is something else entirely. A system window describes an ancient king buried by a nameless star. Randolph looks up into the sky, confidently saying it has finally shown itself. A colossal serpent with glowing eyes appears, identified as the ancient king Dramit. He feels the overwhelming pressure, questioning if this is the sanctuary's guardian. The massive beast towers over them, its sheer size blocking out the sky. Randolph smirks at Isabella, telling her not to worry because the guardian is actually gentle. Before he can finish, the serpent lunges forward in a devastatingly fast attack. The blow slams directly into Isabella, sending her flying across the battlefield. She skids to a halt, using her daggers to brace herself against the immense force. He insists the creature is friendly, but Isabella angrily asks if it looks friendly to him. Dramut challenges the challenger to prove their qualification, but Isabella panics, saying it's not her. The serpent accuses her of defeating its sentinels, leaving her utterly flustered. With a final warning, Dramut attacks again, and Isabella screams that it has the wrong person. She desperately asks Randolph for help, but he's confused, realizing he never fought Dramut before. His eyes widen as he wonders if the game's history has somehow changed. A lore window explains Dramut as a guardian protecting a greater god with its massive body. It reveals the serpent gained its power and wisdom from the spiritual energy of a star. A flashback shows his previous character, a level 10 transcendent who cleared this place long ago. He recalls that as Wilhelm, Dramut was obedient because he was qualified. Now he realizes the serpent attacks anyone weaker than it, and he's only level 2. Meanwhile, Isabella is sent flying by another one of the serpent's powerful blows. She crashes to the ground, gritting her teeth in pain from the brutal impact. Isabella struggles to move, cursing the sanctuary's poison for weakening her body. Lying defeated, she wonders if trusting the so-called Star-Bearer was a fatal mistake. Randolph steps forward, commanding the colossal serpent to stop its assault. Dramut's tail whips around, swatting Isabella away like an insignificant fly. The serpent's glowing red eye narrows, focusing solely on the man before it. It demands to know how a weak human could possibly know its true name. With a confident smirk, Randolph declares that its master, Wilhelm, has returned. The massive serpent leans in, questioning if he is truly the legendary Wilhelm. Dramut lets out a furious roar, its massive jaws wide with disbelief. It scolds him for being weaker than a golem and unprepared to receive the star. The serpent explains that Wilhelm was a perfect transcendent, worthy of being its master. But Wilhelm failed his expedition to the demon realm and met a complete death. Dramut roars that a lowly creature like him has no right to speak its master's name. Randolph stands his ground, calmly telling the serpent to honor their contract. The beast freezes, shocked that he knows about the secret pact it made with Wilhelm. A flashback reveals the contract. Whoever obtains the hidden star becomes Dramut's new master. A flashback reveals the contract's final deadly clause, revealing it means death. Randolph smirks, realizing his new body is immune to the contract's curse. The colossal serpent leans in close, demanding to know the identity of this strange creature. He confidently tells the beast to guide him, letting the star itself prove his worth. Dramet warns that the unqualified will be incinerated the moment they approach the star. Randolph taunts the serpent, asking if it's afraid the star will reveal him as its true master. The beast scoffs at his arrogance, seeing him as nothing more than a weakling. Intrigued, Dramet agrees to lead him, still doubting he is the legendary Wilhelm. The serpent declares it would rather see the star destroy him than accept a false master. Isabella can only stare in stunned silence as the impossible scene unfolds before her. Dramet guides them down a dark passage, finally revealing the location of the star. Randolph confirms that the object resting on the altar ahead is what they seek. On the altar sits a cracked human skull, resting inside a glowing six-pointed star. He corrects Isabella, revealing the skull is not just a star but the face of a goddess named Leah. A flashback explains that when the goddess Leah died, her body shattered into 32 stars. Randolph holds the skull, explaining these fragments are used by players to achieve transcendence. But as he touches it, the skull erupts in a violent explosion of fiery energy. He recoils in shock, completely unprepared for the star's hostile reaction. Dramet mocks him from the shadows, declaring the star has rejected him and he will burn. Enveloped in flames, Randolph glares at the glowing skull with pure frustration. He realizes the star only kills players who cheat their way past Dramet. He recalls a theory that a classless player who acquires a star will be granted its power. The glowing skull cracks violently, unleashing an energy labeled Void. All 13 of his hidden traits appear around him, resonating with the star's power. A mysterious voice addresses him as he's engulfed in a brilliant, transformative light. System messages confirm his mana has become star energy, granting him new skills and a massive stat boost. A final notification announces he has acquired the legendary class Star Successor. Isabella stares in wide-eyed disbelief, unable to comprehend that he absorbed the star. He turns to her, calmly asking what she plans to do once her curse is lifted. She answers that she wants to leave the desert and find her family's lost bloodline. He offers to free her on one condition: she must serve him for 1 year. A flashback shows her past servitude to the deceitful queen. He looks down at her, promising that unlike the queen, he does not lie. With newfound resolve, Isabella kneels before him and pledges her loyalty. He looks on with a satisfied smirk, telling her she's made a good decision. Randolph then turns to the colossal serpent, reminding it of their contract. Dramet nervously stammers its agreement, now completely subservient. With a menacing glare, he points at the beast and commands it to bow its head. The serpent's massive eye widens in pure terror at its new master's command. The scene cuts to the queen's throne room, where a subordinate reports on Isabella's actions. The enraged queen orders her guards to seize the two of them immediately. The scene abruptly shifts to a bright sunny day in a modern city street. We focus on the front of a cafe named Angelus Coffee. Inside, 2 men and a woman debate if Randolph is the legendary player Phantom. One man is convinced the 5-year ghost player has finally appeared and they must contact him. The woman scoffs, asking how they'll find him when years of searching have failed. Her companion explains that now Phantom is a real player. They can try fishing for him in the auction hall. The woman considers the plan, knowing Phantom will need items for the next main quest. An info window explains fishing, luring players by selling cheap items with hidden tracking talismans. This tactic allows powerful players to track, rob, and even kill unsuspecting newbies. One of the men doubts the plan, certain a veteran like Phantom would know every talisman in the game. But the woman leans forward excitedly, convinced he might just fall for it. She gushes about his daring nature, certain he'd buy a cheap item and they can invite him to their guild. Her thoughts race, wondering what amazing person he is in real life and hoping he'll join them. Back in the throne room, the subordinate is shocked to see Randolph has 230 points from his class alone. Elsewhere, the player Massacre realizes he won't be using the auction hall for a while. He grips a fallen enemy's hair, vowing to rise in the ranks by killing anyone above him. Meanwhile, Randolph receives a notification for being the first to perfectly clear the sanctuary, earning a teleport book. Riding on Dramet's back, he comments on the comfortable ride, planning his escape. A system window suddenly appears, announcing that he has leveled up. He checks his status, now level 3, but realizes his talents require 10 times the normal experience. With a grin, he shifts his focus to the powerful items he received from the main quest. He stretches, thinking about the 2 extremely rare items he now possesses. One of them is the Shadow Cloak, which grants the wearer complete invisibility. Suddenly, Dramet's glowing red eye snaps open, sensing a new threat. A squad of cloaked assassins moves with supernatural speed through the sanctuary. The serpent warns its master that intruders have been detected. Isabella immediately identifies them as the Queen's deadly pursuit squad. She asks for his plan, warning that the squad will be a formidable force. Randolph dons his new cloak, considering their options as Isabella voices her doubts. He smirks, asking why they would fight when Dramet is the one who has to. Carrying Isabella, he orders the massive serpent to hold off their pursuers. The terrified guardian sweats bullets as Randolph commands it to do its job. As the soldiers panic at the sight of Dramet, Randolph and Isabella make their escape. He assures her it's just an advance unit, and they'll be fine since the Queen isn't there. Randolph knows they must escape quickly before the main force arrives and surrounds them. He explains Dramet is bound to the sanctuary, so only they can flee. Their only way out is a warp gate, but he knows there's a catch. They arrive at the massive gate, which requires a long time to activate. Isabella looks on with nervous anticipation, knowing this is their only chance. He explains that once they pass the gate, they'll finally be out of the desert. But when Isabella asks how long it will take, he reveals it's about half a day. He knows Dramet is buying them time, but the Queen's pursuit squad will eventually find them. He tells her he must communicate with the star, a cover for his real plan to log out. Isabella looks at him with uncertain eyes, asking if she can truly trust him. She stands guard over him, vowing to protect him while he's vulnerable. A system window confirms his logout is complete as he awakens in his bed. He sits up, still feeling the disorienting sensation of returning to his real body. He immediately grabs his phone to check the status of the real world. With no disaster warnings, he realizes the monsters haven't appeared yet. A status window confirms the worlds are still merging and more monsters are coming. Suddenly, he gets a call from Kim Seo-yeon, his ex-girlfriend. A flashback shows Seo-yeon on the phone, arguing with him about money. In the memory, she coldly refuses his request to talk things over in person. She abruptly ends the call, telling him she's meeting someone else. Back in the present, Seo-yeon sits in a cafe, glaring at her phone and calling him an annoying jerk. She reflects on their past, thinking that even though he was pathetic, she should have held on. She corrects herself, admitting she wouldn't have left if he had more money before someone calls her name. She's shocked to see Hyun-myung has arrived, looking completely different than she remembers. He coldly asks what she wants, telling her he needs to leave soon. She scoffs at his newfound pride, thinking some things never change. With a smile, she says she always liked how he'd come running whenever she called. She claims to have regretted their breakup, asking if he ever missed her. He ignores her, annoyed that she called him out but wouldn't even buy him a drink. Fed up, he tells her he's leaving, much to her complete shock. She desperately grabs him, asking if this is because of how she treated him in the past. He coldly asks if her new boyfriend knows about this meeting, calling her out for her social media posts. Turning his back, he walks away as she begs him to listen. He feels strangely calm and gets a level-up notification, realizing his game character's growth affects his real body. His thoughts are interrupted by a man screaming at a woman on the street. The man grabs the woman, threatening her with a box cutter as a crowd watches. Enraged, he screams that he'll kill her for looking down on him. But his hand is suddenly stopped, the blade hovering just inches from her face. The terrified woman looks up, wondering who just saved her. It's Hyun-myung, who has caught the attacker's wrist and tells him that's enough. The man struggles in his grip, demanding to be let go. With a powerful twist, Hyun-myung bends the man's wrist, who screams that it's about to snap. He realizes his real body has changed, feeling a strength he never had before. He shoves the attacker to the ground and turns to the woman, asking if she's okay. She looks at him with tearful gratitude, saying she doesn't know how to thank him for saving her life. The woman he saved notices him staring and asks why he's looking at her like that. He suddenly recognizes her as the woman who tried to save the little girl during the monster attack. He quickly dismisses it, saying she just resembled someone he knew, and turns to leave. But the attacker gets up, screaming for him to die as he lunges with the box cutter. With a swift, fluid motion, Hyun-myung easily sidesteps the clumsy attack. He brings his fist down hard, knocking the man out cold in a single brutal blow. The woman can only stare in awe at his incredible display of power. Hyun-myung crouches over the unconscious man, his expression unreadable. Suddenly, 2 police officers arrive and tell him he needs to come to the station. The woman defends him, but the police insist his actions were still an act of violence. Annoyed, Hyun-myung says he doesn't have time for this, as the woman looks on worriedly. The officer stubbornly refuses to bend the rules, questioning who would take responsibility for him. The woman pulls out her ID, introducing herself as Kim Hana, a reporter for a major network. The officers freeze, realizing they're dealing with a reporter who could make this a public issue. They recognize her as the famous reporter who saved a child during the monster invasion. The lead officer reluctantly agrees to let her, the complainant, accompany them instead. After the situation is resolved, she sincerely thanks Hyun Myung for everything he did. She hands him her card, revealing she's a reporter dedicated to covering Dimension Warriors. She explains it's the name given to the heroes who fought back when the monsters invaded. He realizes the public calls players Dimension Warriors, finding it more believable than a game turning real. As the reporter asks for his card, his ex-girlfriend Seo-yeon rushes toward them. She grabs his arm in feigned concern, prompting the reporter to ask if she's his girlfriend. He yanks his arm away, coldly denying he even knows her. The reporter asks for his number instead, leaving Seo-yeon stunned and hurt. She saves his contact, learning his name is Park Hyun Myung. Promising to treat him to dinner, the reporter happily waves goodbye. Seo-yeon confronts him, demanding to know how he could ignore her like that. She seethes with rage, screaming that he's just a pathetic nobody. Meanwhile, the reporter, Kim Hana, walks away while checking her phone. She receives a call from her boss, who gives her a new assignment. Her next task is to conduct an interview with a person named Gracia. She's shocked to learn it's the legendary hero who saved America. Her boss reveals Gracia specifically requested her and is coming to Korea. Back in Pangaea, Isabella stands over the bodies of the assassins she just slaughtered. But another, larger group of the Queen's soldiers has already arrived to replace them. Their leader demands she surrender Randolph and return to the Queen. Without waiting for a reply, the soldiers charge, screaming to kill the traitor. Isabella prepares for battle, standing guard over the meditating Randolph. Suddenly, the warp gate behind them erupts with brilliant cosmic energy. The soldiers freeze in shock as the portal activates, realizing they're out of time. Randolph reappears, telling Isabella she held on well while he was gone. With a smug grin, he confirms his communication with the stars is complete. The enemy commander screams at his soldiers to execute the traitor immediately. As his hand glows with golden light, Randolph vows to keep his promise to her. He clenches his fist, unleashing a torrent of brilliant star energy. A system window announces he's used Star Pierce, consuming all his energy for a 41-second burst. The powerful beam of light tears through the soldiers, who scream in agony. Standing amidst the golden light, he declares this is their moment of liberation. Isabella stares in awe, finally witnessing the true power of the Star-Bearer. He offers her one last chance to return to the Queen, promising not to stop her. With wide, determined eyes, Isabella firmly refuses to leave his side. She steps into the warp gate, vowing to stay with him as her curse is finally lifted. They arrive in a magnificent city of gold, welcomed by a system message to Arcana. A pop-up warns that Arcana is a city of extreme materialism, ruled by wealth. Randolph explains that in this city, gold is everything, and their first priority is to get funds. Isabella proudly presents a bag of 300 gold coins, thinking they're set. Her confidence shatters as he tells her that's barely enough for one night. He explains that in the desert, that much gold could buy 10 slaves. But here, a single loaf of bread costs 50 gold, leaving Isabella speechless. Randolph smirks, telling her not to worry because there's money lying all over the place. He points up at a massive, brightly lit casino. Isabella looks on, completely bewildered by his plan. He stands confidently before the grand entrance, a plan already in motion. With a confident smirk, he tells her not to worry, claiming he's rather lucky. The Golden City of Arcana is famously known as the City of Pleasures. In Pangaea, each lower city functions as an independent monarchy. This grand city operates under a single, unwavering law. Here, money alone dictates everything and holds absolute power. The vast wealth of the city converges at one legendary place, the Hudson Casino. A magnificent casino entrance glows with vibrant lights, welcoming a crowd. A formal attendant politely stops the male lead, addressing him directly. He informs them that a substantial 10,000 gold deposit is mandatory for entry. The female companion reacts with wide-eyed shock at the exorbitant fee. She whispers her frustration, revealing they only have 100 gold left after their preparations. The attendant firmly tells them to leave if they lack the deposit, as other customers grumble. The male lead calmly presents a glowing, ethereal blue crystal as collateral. This precious item is identified as the Fairy Queen's Tear, an immortal artifact. The staff's demeanor instantly shifts, now treating him with utmost respect as a VIP. His companion, bewildered, asks what valuable item he just handed over. He casually reveals it was the Fairy Queen's tear, a powerful talisman. He explains its immense worth, estimating it at over 1 million gold, stunning her. Confidently, he assures her it's merely a deposit he intends to reclaim by winning. The roulette wheel spins, and the ball lands on a winning number. Onlookers gasp in astonishment as the male lead continues his incredible winning streak. The casino owner's intense red eye glares, reflecting his deep focus. The male lead, with a smirk, tells the attendant he will leave. But first, he insists on speaking directly with the casino's owner. He clarifies that it's not his desire but the owner's to meet. The male lead confidently states the boss will want to see him. Meanwhile, the casino owner, Hudson, intently examines the glowing crystal. He activates his hand of observation ability to analyze the artifact. Hudson is stunned, realizing the Fairy Queen's tear is undeniably real. He recalls the talisman's legendary rarity, carried only by powerful knights. Obtaining such an item is almost impossible, requiring immense power. Hudson marvels that this priceless artifact has appeared in his casino. A staff member approaches Hudson, awaiting instructions. The staff informs Hudson of the talisman's owner's request for a meeting. They add the man claimed Hudson would be eager to meet him. Intrigued, Hudson agrees, inviting the male lead for a private discussion. The male lead and his companion are now seated across from Hudson. Hudson observes the male lead, noting his unassuming appearance. He asks the male lead to explain his bold assertion about the meeting. The male lead calmly reveals he knew Hudson desired the talisman. Hudson confirms his interest, admitting he was planning to acquire it. Hudson questions the talisman's worth, stating 20 gold buys a mansion. He argues talismans are only for reforging weapons, doubting its high value. The male lead counters, saying its true worth is not for him, but for Hudson. Hudson, in his study, insists he can't pay such a sum for a mere hobby item. The male lead clarifies that the Fairy Queen's tear is far more than a hobby item for Hudson. He reveals it's essential for Hudson to enter the city council. The male lead explains that reaching level 10 is required to join the council. He adds that achieving level 10 through strength is nearly impossible for non-combatants like Hudson. Therefore, Hudson needs an item to bypass the minimum equipment requirement. That item is precisely the Fairy Queen's tear. With it, Hudson can equip higher tier gear to compensate for his lacking combat stats. The male lead then asks if Hudson wants to enter the council to be acknowledged by his fiancé's family. He names the fiancé's family Serengeti, causing Hudson to react with a shocked glare. The male lead's eye is shown, then the name Serengeti appears. He identifies Serengeti as the only daughter of Marquis Weiser from the Balrun Kingdom. A smiling image of Serengeti appears, described as the pure white knight. She led 500 knights during the Demon World Great Expedition with him. She made a great sacrifice, losing her legs to save his life, serving as his right hand. He initially saw her actions as a game event, as Pangaea was just a game to him. After his awakening in this world, he realized NPCs might be players too. The male lead offers to give Hudson what he wants, not for money, but a simple condition. Hudson asks the condition, and the male lead requests his life story to decide on help. He emphasizes the story must be truthful, as the stars favor honesty. Hudson reacts with surprise at the request for his personal history. The male lead internally notes the danger for a star-bearer to reveal information due to hunters. Hunters are revealed as NPCs who target players, executing them as criminals. He explains players hide their identities, and he has no intention of revealing his own. Yet he's confident Hudson will accept, knowing Serengeti is more than just an NPC to him. Hudson gazes at a locket, revealing a smiling picture of Serengeti. Hudson agrees to share his life story with the male lead. He states his story must begin with Serengeti, as she is central to his ambitions. Hudson recounts Serengeti as a brave knight in the Demon World Great Expedition, led by 8 heroes. The male lead's eyes widen in clear astonishment at this revelation. He questions Hudson, believing Wilhelm led it, but Hudson clarifies all 8 heroes were involved. Hudson mentions stories of infighting among the heroes, leading to the expedition's failure. The male lead asks if Hudson knows the 8 heroes, who Hudson confirms are legendary. Hudson identifies one hero as Gracia, the strongest after Wilhelm. Gracia, a blonde man, is shown holding a phone looking serious. A news report details a giant mantis attack in Seoul and a man riding a monster. Gracia is informed his interview with reporter Kim Hana is scheduled, and he expresses thanks. A woman asks the male lead if his meal is not to his liking. The male lead reflects on staying up all night, but gained valuable information about the 8 heroes. Kim Hana, the female companion, expresses concern about eating at such an expensive place for free. She insists this meal is insufficient thanks for his help with her stalker. The male lead looks surprised as Kim Hana praises his brave actions. Kim Hana points out a woman in the back who keeps glancing at them. The woman Seoyeon glares intently at their table. Seoyeon's companion Park Hyunmyoung remarks on the unexpected encounter. Hyunmyoung questions Seoyeon if her new boyfriend knows she's meeting him. He suggests she should have deleted all her social media pictures, not just her profile photo. Seoyeon looks horrified as Hyunmyoung asks if her new boyfriend's name is Jung Jinwoo. Kim Hana whispers, offering to move tables if the situation is uncomfortable. The male lead calmly states there is no relationship to worry about. Park Hyunmyoung approaches the male lead, addressing him by name. Hyunmyoung confronts the male lead, accusing him of following Seoyeon. He angrily denounces the male lead for pestering and stalking Seoyeon after their breakup. The male lead looks up, questioning the accusation of stalking. Hyunmyoung recounts Seoyeon's fabricated story of the male lead clinging and begging her. Hyunmyoung threatens the male lead, warning him not to approach Seoyeon again. Kim Hana stands up, angrily challenging Hyunmyoung's baseless accusations. Kim Hana angrily calls Hyunmyoung a crazy bastard. Hyunmyoung, with a furious expression, claims she hit him first. Kim Hana looks shocked as Hyunmyoung threatens her, telling her to grit your teeth. The male lead swiftly kicks Hyunmyoung away, surprising Seoyeon and other diners. The male lead calmly tells Hyunmyoung he doesn't look innocent either. Hyunmyoung's face contorts in rage, calling the male lead, "You little..." Hyunmyoung covers his face, eyes wide with fury and frustration. The male lead pins Hyunmyoung to the ground, firmly stating, "I said stop it." Hyunmyoung struggles, questioning the male lead's immense strength and grip. Seoyeon shouts at Hyunmyoung, telling him to get up and stop embarrassing her. The male lead suggests they go outside to finish their discussion, holding Hyunmyoung down. Hyunmyoung, still pinned, fumes about being embarrassed in front of Seoyeon. Hyunmyoung declares the male lead messed with the wrong person as he begins to power up. Hyunmyoung transforms, glowing with energy, as the male lead looks surprised. Onlookers gasp in disbelief, wondering what kind of power is being displayed. Someone exclaims that Hyunmyoung is a dimension warrior and questions his sudden transformation. Hyunmyoung, now in an armored form, challenges the male lead to try running your mouth again. The male lead swiftly counters Hyunmyoung's attack with a powerful, glowing strike. Hyunmyoung lies defeated on the ground, while Seoyeon cries out his name in distress. The male lead reflects that Hyunmyoung was a player, but wonders how he can act like nothing happened. A system screen details Randolph's stats and numerous talents, explaining that more talents means slower leveling. A comparison shows characters with fewer talents level faster, and Jung Jinwoo is among them. Jung Jinwoo's low level is due to never fighting, having run from the moment he synchronized with Pangea. Through luck, he survived a main quest and obtained the high-tier Spearman class. His top-rank reward allowed him to log out, and he never returned to Pangea. The male lead reflects that adapting to this world without his unique starting advantage would be difficult for others. Kim Hana, his companion, urges him to leave, noting people are staring and his mood is ruined. The male lead, in his armored form, warns Hyunmyoung to stay away from Seoyeon, crediting her for his restraint. The male lead internally observes Hyunmyoung revealing his player status, wasting precious time and predicting his short lifespan. Seoyeon rushes to Hyunmyoung, asking if he's all right, and he reassures her he's fine. Seoyeon suggests calling the police, but Hyunmyoung stops her, admitting they provoked the confrontation. Hyunmyoung, with a stern expression, insists it's not a major issue and they should finish their meal. Suddenly, the restaurant violently shakes, causing diners to fall and exclaim about an earthquake. The male lead recognizes the unsettling sensation, wondering if the corrosion has begun again. A massive worm-like monster bursts through the floor, terrifying everyone as more monsters appear. Kim frantically urges them to flee, but the male lead calmly silences her, telling her to wait. Other people in the restaurant are seen desperately scrambling to escape the emerging creatures. The male lead observes the monsters, noting they are not directly attacking anyone. He identifies them as cheed worms, scavengers that typically only appear if provoked. Hyunmyoung, in his armored form, screams at Jinwoo to act as a monster approaches him and Seoyeon. Hyunmyoung, in his armored form, unleashes an attack on the approaching cheed worm. The male lead reacts with alarm, urgently telling Hyunmyoung not to attack. Hyunmyoung's powerful strike impacts the monster, causing a messy explosion of energy. Hyunmyoung looks surprised, questioning if he defeated the monster in a single hit. He muses on his unexpected strength and vows to eliminate all the creatures. Hyunmyoung continues to engage the monsters, urging other diners to flee to safety. He grows more confident, believing the monsters are not as formidable as he initially thought. The male lead turns to Kim Hana, instructing her to get as far away as possible. He emphasizes that she needs to distance herself from Hyunmyoung, who he calls an idiot. Suddenly, a dense red fog engulfs Hyunmyoung, obscuring his vision. Hyunmyoung struggles to see, frustrated by the unexpected and blinding fog. A menacing red eye appears in the darkness, observing Hyunmyoung intently. An elite monster, the Cheed Mamba, appears, demanding to know who eliminated its offspring. The Cheed Mamba declares that all its children have been eliminated. Hyunmyoung gasps, disoriented and struggling to comprehend the sudden change in his surroundings. He notes that the fog completely blocks his vision, leaving him unable to see anything. The Cheed Mamba prepares a powerful, glowing attack targeting Hyunmyoung. Its red eye glows intensely, signaling its intent to eliminate him. A system message confirms that Hyunmyoung is now under a hallucination status due to the Cheed Worm's influence. Hyunmyoung reacts with wide-eyed confusion and distress, caught in the hallucination. Hyunmyoung lies defeated, caught in the illusion, as the male lead stands over him. Hyunmyoung's eyes glow red, still struggling within the powerful hallucination. The male lead declares he must intervene, as the situation has escalated too far. Now in his armored form, the male lead commands the illusionary monster to appear. He exerts himself, breathing heavily as he confronts the powerful illusion. The Cheed Mamba's menacing face appears, acknowledging the male lead's presence. The elite monster, Cheed Mamba, reveals its intent to target the male lead. Meanwhile, Seoyeon frantically calls out for Hyunmyoung, unaware of the illusion. The male lead swiftly moves, striking with his sword amidst a burst of energy. He realizes the fog allowed his transformation, but the Mamba remains a dangerous foe. His focused gaze shows the intense concentration required to face the threat. He reflects that knowing its attack patterns is crucial for his survival. The Cheed Mamba questions how he evades its attacks despite his average abilities. The male lead skillfully dodges, confirming he anticipates the monster's every move. The Cheed Mamba dismisses his efforts, preparing for a decisive strike. He expertly weaves through a barrage of incoming attacks. His eyes glow as he predicts the Cheed Mamba's next evasive maneuver. A sudden splash of red liquid erupts from the monster. He realizes contact with the substance would inflict a harmful status ailment. The male lead cries out as he is struck by a sharp, dark projectile. The male lead stands ready, having skillfully evaded another attack. The Cheed Mamba expresses astonishment at his incredible evasive ability. The monster then questions the point of dodging if he cannot land a hit. The male lead, breathing heavily, confidently replies, "Don't worry." He declares he will soon strike the monster's forehead using the Fairy Queen's tear. A system message shows Hermes' shoes equipped, with requirements reduced by the talisman. More system messages confirm Michaela's armor and Michaela's helmet are also equipped. He now has access to powerful set options like Celestial Dragonborn and Swiftness. The male lead reflects on buying the gear in advance and apologizes to Hudson for using the talisman. He reaffirms his promise to Hudson, then activates the Swiftness option of Hermes' shoes. He moves with incredible speed, leaving a trail of light. The male lead delivers a powerful, glowing strike. He spins, preparing for another swift attack. The monster reacts with shock as the male lead continues his assault. The Cheed Mamba roars in fury, feeling the impact of the attacks. The monster's body shows signs of damage from the male lead's strikes. The male lead continues his rapid, glowing assault. He moves with blur-like speed, striking the monster from below. The monster is sent flying back by the powerful impact. The male lead prepares for his next move, eyes glowing with determination. The male lead activates his Celestial Dragonborn ability, surrounded by powerful red energy. The Cheed Mamba expresses shock, realizing the male lead still possesses hidden abilities. The monster roars in fury as the male lead continues his relentless assault. The male lead's gaze sharpens, anticipating the Cheed Mamba's final attack pattern. He steels himself, knowing he must endure this last powerful move to succeed. The Cheed Mamba unleashes a devastating attack, confident it cannot be evaded. The male lead activates a Celestial Dragonborn and Swiftness synergy, triggering a powerful gale. The Cheed Mamba reacts with disbelief, realizing its poisonous fog is being dispersed by wind. The male lead, breathing heavily, recalls the monster's distinct skill patterns. He remembers that after exhausting its abilities, the Cheed Mamba enters a brief state of confusion. He understands this fleeting moment is his sole opportunity to secure victory. The Cheed Mamba cries out in alarm as the male lead prepares his final decisive strike. The male lead delivers a powerful glowing blow to the monster. He drives his sword into the monster, fulfilling his earlier declaration. The male lead reaffirms his promise to strike the monster's forehead. A system message confirms the elite monster's elimination, and the surrounding fog dissipates. Kim Hana looks around in wide-eyed confusion, wondering if the terrifying event has ended. She spots the male lead, still in his armored form, amidst the fading red energy. Kim Hana recognizes him as the man who had saved her before. She calls out to him, asking if he remembers their previous encounter. The male lead, still in his armored form, assures Hana she is safe as an invisibility cloak activates. Kim Hana reaches out, asking the male lead to talk to her for a moment. The male lead calls out Hana as she turns, looking surprised. Hyunmyung appears, calling out, "Hyunmyung!" and saying he finally found her after the chaos. Hyunmyung asks if Soyeon is hurt, and she replies she is fine. Hyunmyung expresses relief, noting he never expected to be caught in such an event. Seoyeon notices blood on Hyunmyung's hand and asks if he is hurt. Hyunmyung dismisses it as monster blood, internally noting he didn't even see it on his nails. Seoyeon observes that only Hyunmyung's nails have blood, finding it unusual. Seoyeon questions Hyunmyung's calm demeanor when the monsters first appeared, asking if he knew what they were. Hyunmyung denies being calm, claiming he was scared and just spoke his mind, while Seoyeon internally calls him a liar. Seoyeon's eyes widen as she internally declares Hyunmyung is suspicious. She suspects Hyunmyung is acting like nothing happened, appearing right after her rescuer vanished. The scene shifts to the next day, revealing another Dimension War occurred shortly after the first. Dimension Warrior members warned of continued attacks, suggesting extended government cooperation. Citizens stayed indoors out of anxiety, leaving the streets truly empty. A news report details public dissatisfaction with the government's complacent response to the Dimension War. A group of men in suits sits around a large table looking serious. One man remarks on the public's sudden fuss after being carefree during the first invasion. Another man suggests people unaffected by the first attack couldn't grasp the unnaturalness of a monster invasion. The government initially struggled to respond to the unprecedented monster invasion. The recent incident made everyone realize that such invasions could happen repeatedly. Alliance leader Park Tae-woo declares this the perfect moment to launch their player alliance. His colleague confirms they are reviewing footage to quickly recruit talent before other alliances. They speculate that the man who single-handedly defeated the Cheed Mamba might be Randolph, the main quest's top player. Another man questions how a low-level Randolph could equip powerful gear like Hermes' shoes. They deduce he likely used a talisman, confirming he is a valuable asset they need. They consider the possibility that Randolph is actually Phantom, who mysteriously disappeared. Park Tae-woo asserts they must recruit him, regardless of other alliances, to secure their future. He emphasizes the urgency of bringing him over to prevent the impending rift. Hudson, looking surprised, asks the male lead if he used the Fairy Queen's tear. The male lead confirms he used the legendary Fairy Queen's tear, stunning Hudson. Hudson confronts him, demanding to know why he used the talisman instead of giving it to him. The male lead clarifies he only promised to help, not to give Hudson the precious item. He explains Hudson doesn't need the talisman for his goal, secretly admitting he needed it himself. Hudson, filled with distrust, questions if there's another way and how he can believe the male lead. The male lead smiles, inviting Hudson to follow him for a compelling reason to trust him. They arrive at the Arcana, the City of Gold underground dungeon entrance. Hudson questions why the male lead brought them to such an undesirable location. The male lead explains he wants to earn Hudson's trust and create a waypoint in Arcana. Hudson expresses shock, questioning if they are truly exploring the dangerous sewers dungeon with just 3 people. He warns them that the boss monster, a monster rat, requires at least 6 level 8 players to defeat. The male lead calmly states he knows, as ominous red eyes appear in the darkness behind him. A system message confirms the appearance of the sewer's mutant monster rat, recommending a 6-person level 8 raid party. A powerful green energy burst erupts from the monster. The male lead, Hudson, and his companion are all thrown back by the monster's swift attack. Hudson explains the monster rat uses its speed as a weapon, normally requiring a prepared 6-person formation. The male lead calls out Isabella as he draws a weapon ready for action. Isabella swiftly moves, striking the monster from the 10 o'clock direction with precision. Isabella's eyes glow with fierce determination as she continues her rapid assault. The male lead reflects that knowing the monster's attack pattern negates its speed advantage. He explains this is possible because Isabella's combat proficiency is exceptionally high, far beyond ordinary characters. The male lead confidently reassures Hudson that he will keep his promise, no matter what. With a subtle smirk, the male lead asserts that if he says something can be done, it will be done.
That massive beast Hydreigon is literally tearing through the ground like a total nightmare. And our guys are just chilling on a platform, calling that insane encounter lucky. Our protagonist looks way too calm for someone who just survived a literal monster attack, while the massive rat carcass behind them proves they definitely didn't come here to play. He holds up that glowing nucleus like he just found the ultimate loot drop. This mutated rat nucleus is basically a cheat code for anyone with the Based Lord trait. Now he's hyped because this shiny rock is exactly what he needs to evolve Hydreigon. Hudson confirms the casino is toast, proving these guys really don't care about collateral damage. The saint is acting all high and mighty, ready to ditch everything for his wedding. But those cold eyes tell a different story, showing he's playing a much deeper game. He's breaking down Isabella's solo hunt like she's some kind of legend, while his internal monologue is basically a fanboy session about her raw talent. Our guy drops the cash, telling her to stop stressing about the bills. He's pushing her to grind for that level 10 and embrace the saint path. She's totally caught off guard by his ability to read her mind like a book. He keeps the destination a mystery, teasing a masterpiece that'll grant her deepest wish. That smirk says he's already 10 steps ahead of everyone else in the room. They arrive at the forest, looking like they're about to start a high-stakes quest. The guy is confused, staring at these trees like they're just basic landscaping. But he drops the bomb that this is actually the gateway to the Spirit Tower. He breaks down the lore, explaining that spirit trees are basically natural portals to the spirit realm. But then he hits them with the grim reality that this specific tree is long dead. Turns out the rot goes deeper than just one tree, as the whole forest is slowly dying. Our guy decides to force the issue, drawing his blade because he's out of better options. The onlookers are losing their minds, wondering what kind of reckless move he's about to pull. He winds up for a massive strike, putting every ounce of his strength into the swing. That blade connects with a blinding flash, carving through the wood like it's made of butter. Debris flies everywhere as the trunk gets absolutely demolished by his raw, unrefined power. His companions are standing there in total shock, questioning if he just destroyed the only entrance. Panic sets in as the saint realizes the portal might be gone, but the sky starts glowing anyway. A massive beam of pure energy tears through the canopy, signaling that things just got real. Isabella barely manages to deflect the strike, her blade vibrating from the sheer impact of the blow. She's forced into a defensive crouch, feeling the weight of that attack in her aching arms. Standing tall in the shadows, the High Dryad emerges with a bow and a smug attitude. That intense stare from the level 9 boss makes it clear he is not playing around. Isabella and her companion are totally stunned, realizing they just poked a very dangerous hornet's nest. The Dryad scoffs at their audacity, acting like he was doing them a favor by letting them pass. He calls them out for their blatant disrespect, specifically for hacking away at his sacred spirit tree. Suddenly, the trees come alive with dozens of forest keepers, turning the forest into a death trap. Isabella realizes they are hopelessly outnumbered, and she starts calculating how to save the saint's life. Our guy steps up, taking full heat for the tree-chopping incident like a total boss. He doesn't even flinch, basically telling the Dryad that he forced his hand on purpose. The High Dryad is clearly rattled, calling him a straight-up madman for his reckless stunt. Our protagonist keeps his cool, demanding a sit-down talk instead of a death match. That Dryad isn't having any of it, locking his bow and refusing to back down. He presses the issue, pointing out the obvious rot and decay eating the forest alive. Our hero makes a bold promise to save the dying woods if they just cooperate. He calls out the lack of spirits, warning that the forest is doomed without intervention. The Dryad scoffs at the idea of a lowly human ever stepping foot in the tower. He doubles down on the gatekeeping, claiming the requirements are way too high for someone like him. The Spirit Tower is basically an impossible endgame dungeon that only a handful of players ever touch. But our guy isn't your average player, and he's about to prove why with that hidden trait. He stares down the High Dryad, demanding access to the tower like he owns the place. The elf is clearly triggered by the audacity, questioning if this human is actually serious. Things go from 0 to 100 as the Dryads lose their cool and scream for blood. Arrows are ready to fly, and the forest is turning into a literal kill zone. The High Dryad is still shouting for death, completely blinded by his own rage. Suddenly, a single hand goes up, and the entire battlefield freezes in its tracks. Shock hits the Dryad's face as he realizes this human might actually be the real deal. He drops a cold promise to restore the forest, flashing a grin that says he's got this. The High Dryad is straight up savage, basically telling our guy he's just waiting for him to fail so he can finish him off. but he still signals for them to follow, clearly thinking he's got the upper hand in this twisted game. They all gather around that pile of rocks like it's some kind of ancient, dusty altar. The Dryad drops the lore bomb that the stone spirit corpse is the only key to cracking open the tower. He doubles down on the threats, warning that if they mess this up, they're becoming forest mulch. Our protagonist just smirks, firing back with a question about what he gets if he actually pulls this off. That look in his eye is pure confidence, like he's already got the reward in his pocket. The system notification pops up with the quest details, and he just laughs at how dramatic the stakes are. He reaches out with a hand glowing in raw energy, ready to tear a hole in reality. Everything goes blindingly white as he forces the portal open, leaving the others squinting against the sheer intensity of the light. The portal to the spirit tower finally tears open, bathing the trio in a blinding golden light. Isabella looks around, completely disoriented by the sudden shift into this strange, ethereal dimension. Our guy keeps his cool, explaining that they're just in the waiting room for the main event. Suddenly, a weird floating golden orb pops out of nowhere, freaking everyone out with its glowing aura. This little guy is the spirit of the tower, looking way too cute to be a gatekeeper. The spirit goes silent for a second, scanning them before dropping a massive bombshell about druidic energy. Our protagonist's eyes flare with that signature green glow as his hidden trait kicks into high gear. The orb starts grilling him about his squad, asking if these people are actually worth his trust. He doesn't hesitate for a second, confirming they're the real deal and ready to ride or die. The spirit grants them entry, but there's a catch: they have to walk through the gate one by one. Our guy is locked in, eyes glowing with that intense red fire as he preps to leave. Poor Hudson is absolutely losing his mind as his physical form starts to glitch out. The little golden orb drops the truth bomb about time dilation between the tower and reality. He gives our protagonist a final blessing, wishing the druid luck before fading into the light. A system prompt flashes up, officially kicking off the main quest to climb the tower. He stands before a massive, ominous gate that looks like it was carved from nightmares. Memories of the spirit tower hit him hard, but he's clearly not intimidated by the past. He stares down the creepy stone face on the door, wondering what kind of trial awaits. The rules are clear: your elemental affinity dictates the gate, and Isabella got the win treatment. Hudson drew the short straw for water, proving the tower customizes every single player's suffering. Our guy is questioning reality, wondering if Randolph's legendary elemental mastery is the reason for this weird gate. That massive glowing entity is staring him down, clearly impressed by a human holding every single element. He's got conflicting forces like water and fire clashing inside him, which honestly sounds like a total nightmare. The entity confirms it's not just void energy, but pure, unadulterated chaos manifesting right in front of him. The Gate of Chaos finally reveals itself, a terrifying path that no one has ever dared to tread. This ominous voice warns that getting swallowed by the chaos means there's absolutely no coming back. He steps forward into the unknown, looking like he's walking into the final boss room of his life. 5 years of grinding Pangenia non-stop, and he's still finding new ways to get himself into trouble. Even with all his pro-gamer knowledge, the sheer scale of what he doesn't know is starting to hit. He's diving headfirst into this impossible territory, ready to challenge the game's most broken mechanics. Our guy is grinning like a maniac, absolutely obsessed with the mystery of this game. He grips his blade tight, ready to face the unknown chaos waiting behind the gate. With a burst of speed, he lunges forward, determined to be the first to clear this mess. But standing in his way is Wilhelm, looking cold and lethal with that silver hair. The protagonist's eyes go wide in pure disbelief as he recognizes his own creation. It's a total clash of titans as they trade blows, sparks flying everywhere in the void. Wilhelm lands a heavy hit, forcing our hero to grunt in pain as he takes the impact. He's struggling to process why the legendary rank 1 player is now his personal trial. Desperation kicks in as he realizes he has to actually beat his own masterpiece to survive. He looks completely rattled, staring up at that incoming strike like he's finally met his match. That shadow looms over him like a final boss, swinging a blade that looks absolutely impossible to parry. He's cursing the game's design, realizing he's fighting a literal wall of stats. The ground beneath them shatters into dust, proving this isn't just a sparring match. He equips the full Michaela set and those Hermes kicks, finally getting his gear game in order. Blood sprays as he takes a hit, but he's already analyzing the damage like a total nerd. He realizes his defense is actually holding up, which is a massive win for his ego. The system lights up with those sweet synergy buffs, activating the Gale effect for a speed boost. He's airborne now, feeling that rush of power as he prepares to counterattack with everything he's got. Wilhelm looks completely unfazed, his cold eyes tracking every single move like a predator. Our hero dives back into the fray, ready to prove that even an unbeatable boss can bleed. Our protagonist slams Wilhelm into the ground with a brutal, earth-shattering strike. That silver-haired legend stares back, questioning if this kid is really trying to reclaim his past glory. He lunges again, moving so fast it's like he's breaking the laws of physics. Wilhelm takes a clean hit to the face, his expression shifting from calm to pure irritation. The protagonist doesn't let up, calling him a cheap knockoff while raining down heavy blows. Blood splatters everywhere as the impact forces Wilhelm's head back in a violent arc. He looms over the fallen fighter, his red armor glowing with the heat of the battle. A system prompt pops up, confirming he's chugging an HP potion to stay in the fight. Green light floods the screen as he downs the liquid, healing up for the next round. He stands tall, thanking his past self for winning that casino cash to fund this survival. Wilhelm is looking absolutely lethal, his silver hair flowing as he prepares to unleash his shadows. He's clearly a master of his craft, standing amidst the chaos like he owns the entire void. Meanwhile, back in the real world, a massive building looms under a bright, sunny sky. Inside, Kim Hana is wrapping up a high-stakes interview, looking professional but totally exhausted. She sits there with her laptop, waiting for the next move while Mr. Gracious stares her down. He's looking sharp in his dark coat, radiating that classic, "I know something you don't" energy. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife as he pivots to a private question. Kim Hana looks genuinely surprised, wondering what kind of secret he's about to drop on her. He pulls up her own article about the monster rider, clearly digging for some juicy intel. Back in the tower, our protagonist is absolutely wrecking shop, leaving a trail of defeated shadows everywhere. Our guy is absolutely gassed, leaning on his blade like he just ran a marathon through hell. He's staring into the void, wondering how many hundreds of mobs he just had to delete. The enemies finally stopped spawning, which is the only reason he's still breathing right now. He's completely out of potions, praying for that clear message to pop up and save him. Suddenly, the shadows start swirling around him, signaling that the real nightmare is just waking up. These chaos spirits are straight up mocking him, confused by his weird mix of human and druid energy. He looks up, dead-eyed and exhausted, asking if he actually managed to clear this cursed tower. That massive, toothy grin in the darkness just laughs at his pathetic attempt at optimism. The spirits are cackling like maniacs, surrounding him while he stands his ground in the gloom. They drop the ultimate roast, telling him he hasn't even seen the real trials yet. Our guy stands before the glowing gate, realizing the real trial is just getting started. That shadow entity is back, mocking his exhaustion and questioning if he's actually got the guts. It reveals the truth that the previous fight was just a warm-up, not the actual trial. Thousands of chaos illusions are waiting behind that barrier, ready to swarm him like a plague. The spirit keeps trash-talking, telling him to just quit because he's clearly out of his league. He ignores the bait and keeps walking, completely unfazed by the threats of death or failure. The spirit gets desperate, trying to bribe him with unique gear and top-tier skills. He knows the drill: clear the trial, get the egg, and level up his spirit game. The Trial of Chaos is a first for Pangenia, and he's betting the loot is legendary. He looks up with that focused stare, convinced that whatever is behind that door is worth the risk. The gate looms ahead, a massive pillar of light daring him to turn back. He's not backing down, even when the system is practically screaming that he's making a mistake. The protagonist calls out the absurdity of the situation, pointing out the thousands of illusions waiting. He admits he's running on fumes after burning through every single potion he had, but he's got the patterns memorized to the point of pure muscle memory. The chaos entities are genuinely shook, wondering how a human could possibly be this calm. He brushes off the need for extra gear, confident that his experience is the only weapon he needs. That shadowy grin in the darkness finally cracks, admitting he's got a soft spot for absolute lunatics. The portal erupts in a blinding flash of golden energy as he steps into the final stretch. He arrives at the summit, and the system finally confirms that the main quest is officially done. The quest notification blares across the screen, confirming he actually pulled off the impossible. That little golden orb floats down, acting all smug while congratulating him on the climb. It confirms his squad is still kicking, which is a massive relief for our guy. He calls out the spirit on its shady lies about the so-called real trial. The orb admits the trap was real, confirming he would have been stuck forever if he'd slipped up. Our protagonist roasts the chaos spirits for being pathological liars while checking his gear. The spirit agrees, noting that surviving the trial meant he had to learn their game. He reaches out his hand, ready to collect the loot he bled and sweated for. The system finally drops the reward, and he's clearly underwhelmed by the chaos spirit egg. But then the system glitches out, dropping a heavenly spirit egg as a massive bonus. He's staring at this glowing orb of feathers like it's the holy grail of loot. His eyes are wide with pure shock, trying to process what kind of item he just pulled. The system confirms it's a heavenly spirit egg, a legendary tier item that defies all logic. He realizes this confirms his status as a celestial, linking him directly to the heavenly race. That hidden trait of his is finally starting to make sense, connecting the dots in real time. He asks the spirit for the lowdown, but even the gatekeeper is clueless about this specific egg. The revelation that the Spirit King himself wanted this item makes his heart skip a beat. That cosmic silhouette of the Spirit King is terrifying, reminding him just how high the stakes are. He decides to stash the egg in his inventory for now, planning to crack it open later. The system officially crowns him the first conqueror of the Chaos Tower with a massive score. The system is absolutely spamming notifications, showering our guy with massive buffs from every constellation in the sky. He stands there in his red armor, looking like a total legend while the golden energy swirls around him. Every single notification confirms his rewards are getting boosted through the roof. He's honestly stunned that these 5 arrogant, high-tier beings are actually paying attention to his grind. Those cosmic entities are basically the VIPs of Pangenia, holding the keys to special quests and insane loot. He realizes they're obsessed with his story, especially after he flexed that Chaos Trial for the first time ever. The reward tier is hitting levels that shouldn't even be possible, all thanks to this divine intervention. He's staring at a list of 20 insane rewards, struggling to pick just 2 because the options are too cracked. Isabella and Hudson finally emerge from the portal, looking like they barely survived their own brutal trials. They walk away with a wind and water spirit egg each, proving the whole squad is leveling up in style. The loot drop is totally random, but Isabella lucked out and snagged 2 spirit eggs. She keeps her word like a real one, handing over one of those precious eggs to the dryads. That high dryad looks pretty stoic, but you can tell he's relieved to finally have a shot at salvation. The forest is basically on life support, but this wind spirit might just be the miracle cure it needs. As a massive thank you, the dryads hand over a mandragora, the ultimate elixir for a stat boost. This thing is made from herbs that have been soaking up forest energy for 1,000 years. Everyone looks absolutely terrified of the mandragora's screeching, like it's some kind of cursed vegetable. Isabella gets the goods as a reward for her generosity, and she's definitely going to be a powerhouse now. The system confirms the quest is cleared, and our guy is riding high on the leaderboard. He's finally chilling in the cart, feeling safe thanks to that Guardian Wall skill keeping his back covered. He breaks down the Guardian Wall mechanics, explaining how it shields his real-world body while he's grinding in Pangenia. And when he logs out, that same barrier shifts to protect his avatar inside the game. He checks the status of that broken golden scale fragment, noting there's still 72 hours on the clock. Honestly, having more time to prep is a massive win for his long-term strategy. He turns to his crew, addressing them as the star bearers while they soak in the sunset. Isabella is clearly hyped, thanking him for the spirit egg and ready to hatch it immediately. He agrees that a spirit is the missing piece to solve her current power struggle. The path from level 9 to 10 is a brutal grind, but a spirit's buff makes it totally doable. He plans to hit the market for a spirit incubator the second they get back to civilization. He leads the squad into a quaint medieval settlement, leaving everyone wondering what secret quest he's cooking up next. The crew arrives at their destination, but the atmosphere is heavy with tension. Our protagonist shuts down the chatter immediately, his eyes scanning the area for threats. He explains they've reached the Knight's Garden, a place tied to Marquis Weiser's territory. Hudson loses his cool completely, realizing his fiancée is somewhere in this dangerous place. He's spiraling into a panic, convinced he isn't worthy enough to face her yet. Our guy tells him to chill out, clarifying they aren't here for a romantic proposal. They've actually come to make a serious request, leaving the group wondering what's next. The town looks like a war zone, with shattered windows and debris scattered everywhere. A massive memorial stone stands in the center of the square, drawing a crowd of mourners. He stares at the 500 names on the tombstone, revealing these were the knights who died under his command. Grandma May is absolutely shattered, weeping as she clings to the memory of her lost son. She's holding a child in her arms, a painful reminder of the life she can't get back. Our protagonist stares ahead with zero empathy, viewing these people as nothing more than disposable game assets. Grandma May collapses to her knees, screaming at the sky and demanding her son be returned. She confronts the group in the town square, desperate for answers about why her boy never came home. The crowd watches in silence as she breaks down right in front of the memorial tombstone. Her face contorts into a mask of pure, unadulterated agony as the reality of her loss hits. She loses her balance, her body going limp as the weight of her grief finally takes over. The townspeople panic as Grandma May hits the ground, shouting for help while our hero stays stone-faced. Isabella steps in, clearly disturbed by the scene, while our protagonist remains completely detached from the drama. Our guy calls the play, deciding they need to hit the emergency aid station immediately. Inside, it's a total disaster zone with people screaming and dying on every single cot. The squad surveys the chaos, realizing the problem isn't just the sheer volume of patients. They notice the staff is practically non-existent, which is wild for a major city like this. The saint calls out the obvious management failure, clearly sensing something fishy about the whole operation. An opportunistic monk slides into the frame, flashing a fake, greasy grin at the group. He plays the humble servant, acting all grateful that they brought the unconscious woman in. Our protagonist and the saint exchange a look, sensing this guy is about to pull a scam. The monk gets right in the saint's face, acting like he's totally oblivious to the tension. He drops the mask and demands 50 gold coins, basically holding medical care for ransom. Our guy is absolutely fed up, calling out the blatant corruption of this so-called charity. The monk is sweating bullets, trying to justify charging a month's salary for basic medical care. He doubles down on the greed, claiming they have no other choice but to beg for cash. Our protagonist isn't buying it for a second, knowing full well that Priest Andrew would never pull this. We get a quick look at the real Priest Andrew, a man of actual faith and honor. He's a total saint in the lore, the kind of guy who wouldn't touch a bribe with a 10-foot pole. The realization hits that this entire aid station is a massive, fraudulent scam. He reflects on the crumbling buildings and the suffering people he saw earlier in the city. It's clear the whole place is rotting from the inside out despite the wealth flowing through Arcana. Meanwhile, some entitled lord is getting hammered in his mansion while his steward watches the empire burn. Things get physical fast as a glass bottle shatters against the wall. The steward is clearly terrified, backing away while the Marquis demands more booze. Marquis Weiser looks like a total mess, drooling and demanding his next fix. Our protagonist isn't playing games, demanding to see Priest Andrew right this second. The monk tries to stall, acting like he's too busy to help. He gets cut off mid-sentence when a heavy bag of gold hits his hands. The monk's eyes go wide at the weight of the bribe, totally stunned. He gets a whisper in his ear about doubling the pay, and his greed takes over. Suddenly, the monk flips his attitude, promising to lead them to the priest immediately. The real Priest Andrew appears, radiating pure holy energy that puts the scammer to shame. Our guy finally sits down for a chat with the priest, looking ready to get some real answers. He drops the bomb about that massive donation, making it clear he's not here to play games. The priest's face goes tight, clearly feeling the heat of being called out on his greedy entry fee. He admits he's just a money-hungry old man, looking pretty pathetic as he tries to justify his actions. Our protagonist doesn't let up, pressing him on how a major city center can be this broke. The priest just stares into the distance, looking like he's carrying the weight of 1,000 failures. He brings up Sister May, confirming he knows exactly who they brought in earlier. Those clasped hands show the priest is actually feeling the pressure of this grim conversation. He explains the tragic backstory of the Knight's Garden, where everyone lost someone to that failed expedition. The city's wealth is just a mask for the deep scars left behind by Wilhelm's disastrous war. Our protagonist gets the lowdown on Serengeti, the daughter of His Excellency. She's been stuck in a permanent snooze fest since she got back, missing both her legs. The priest admits he's tried every holy trick in the book, but nothing wakes her up. Even the rarest elixirs and fancy medicinal roots couldn't pull her out of that deep slumber. It's a total tragedy that sent the city's economy into a death spiral. The desperate father got played by some shady scammers, losing everything he had left. He even bet the entire city as collateral for a loan, which is just peak financial suicide. Now the guy is completely broken, wallowing in his own misery while the city rots. The priest explains that without the clinic's support, the sick have zero hope for survival. Our hero realizes this isn't just a physical injury, but a curse that needs the blessing of the stars. Our guy is already checking out, dropping the mic on the priest like he's got better things to do. The old man is scrambling to stop him, desperate to keep the conversation going just a little longer. He tries to play the polite host, offering to pull strings for a meeting if our hero just waits. But our protagonist is stone cold, shutting down the offer because he's literally on a speed run. He flexes that the donation was just a transaction, and he's already gotten his money's worth. Suddenly, some loudmouth guard bursts in, shouting about orders from the big boss to drag them away. The hero just smirks at the priest, pointing out how easy it is to buy access with enough cash. He turns his back on the room, walking away with that main character energy while the priest calls out. The old man tries to pivot to Sister May, hoping to guilt-trip him into staying for a chat. Our guy gives a final, cryptic look back, clearly holding on to some deep history with the old priest. Priest Andrew looks absolutely shook, like he's hearing the same bad news for the 100th time. The squad stands before the grand doors, ready to face the man who holds all the cards. Inside, the protagonist takes a seat at the massive table, looking like he's ready to negotiate a hostile takeover. Marquis Weiser sips his tea with a weary, hollow expression, clearly a shadow of his former self. Our guy keeps his cool, sipping his own drink while mentally dissecting the Marquis's pathetic state. The Marquis introduces himself with a heavy sigh, looking like he's barely holding it together. A close-up on our hero's eyes reveals he's already analyzing how much the Marquis has fallen. Flashback time showing the Marquis in his prime as a legendary knight, radiating pure, unadulterated power. We see his daughter Serengeti in her glory days, a one-star transcendent who once stood at the peak. The family's rise to power was built on that sword, a symbol of a legacy now crumbling into dust. The flashback shows a knight swearing eternal loyalty, proving Weiser's character is built on ironclad honor. But back in the present, the protagonist wonders if that noble heart has finally rotted away. He lays his cards on the table, cutting through the small talk to address the elephant in the room. Dropping the ultimate bait, he promises to cure Serengeti and flip the Marquis's entire world. The Marquis loses it, laughing like a man who's been pushed past the brink of sanity. He admits he pegged the kid for a spoiled brat, but now he's clearly second-guessing everything. Our hero keeps his eyes locked, daring the old man to question his legendary reputation. Weiser snaps, slamming his fist into the table and shattering the surface like his own fragile hope. His face twists into a mask of pure, desperate rage, demanding to know what more he must sacrifice. The protagonist just sighs, totally bored, and orders his guards to toss the broken man out. Our guy isn't here for the payday, he's here to make a cold, calculated business deal. He lays it out plain, no promises on a total cure, but he's willing to try. The Marquis is clearly skeptical, wondering what kind of angle this stranger is actually playing. He drops the bombshell that he's Wilhelm's successor, and the room goes dead silent. He demands a private audience with the comatose Serengeti to get the answers he needs. The Marquis lets out a manic, broken laugh, clearly thinking this kid is just another delusional fanboy. He mocks the protagonist for claiming a title that every two-bit mercenary on the continent wants. His patience finally snaps, and he orders his men to execute the hero and his crew. A guard lunges with a blade raised high, but our protagonist doesn't even flinch. He keeps that icy, focused stare, ready to show these fools exactly why he's the real deal. The tension snaps as a fist slams down, shattering a teacup into jagged ceramic shards. Our protagonist doesn't even flinch when the blade swings, casually blocking the strike with his own weapon. Marquis Weiser looks absolutely rattled, his eyes wide as he realizes he's dealing with a monster. The protagonist stares him down, doubling down on his claim to be the true successor. Suddenly, they're standing in the middle of a massive arena, the dust swirling around them like a storm. The onlookers are losing their minds, wondering how a simple meeting turned into a high-stakes duel. Our guy looks completely unbothered, scratching the back of his neck like he's just hanging out. The challenger steps up, decked out in high-tier blessed armor that's literally glowing with divine power. He gives our hero one last chance to fold, threatening him with a brutal death if he's lying. The protagonist just smirks, telling the guy to keep his mouth shut and focus on losing. The challenger flashes a cocky grin, swearing on his knightly honor that he won't lose. He lunges forward with blinding speed, turning the arena into a blur of golden light. Our guy watches the incoming strike with total calm, barely even breaking a sweat. That massive blade arcs through the air like a falling star, aiming straight for his head. He keeps his cool, knowing his own stats are lagging behind this armored beast. The knight closes the distance in a heartbeat, his blade glowing with lethal, divine energy. Eyes locked on the target, the challenger puts everything he has into this single, crushing blow. Suddenly, the protagonist makes a move that defies all logic, slamming his forehead into the blade. Blood sprays everywhere as he stops the magical weapon dead in its tracks with his skull. The knight stares in absolute disbelief, finally realizing he's not fighting some two-bit scammer. The challenger is straight up, calling our guy a madman for taking a blade to the forehead. Blood is pouring down his face, but he's still standing there like it's just a light drizzle. The knight tries to act superior, claiming our hero's moves are just cheap parlor tricks. He goes on a rant about how many losers have tried to fake being the successor. The guy is clearly obsessed with the Night King's legacy, acting like he's the ultimate gatekeeper. He demands a display of true skill, otherwise he's not buying the hype for a second. Our protagonist finally snaps back, acknowledging the knight's talent while keeping his eyes locked on the prize. He tells the guy to quit the act and stop hiding behind that fancy, blessed armor. The knight tries to play the victim, claiming he was forced into this gear by the Lord. Our hero isn't hearing it, delivering a brutal counterstrike that sends the knight flying through the air. The challenger takes a massive hit to his chest, sparks flying everywhere as his armor absorbs the impact. Our protagonist's sword slams into the ground with a heavy thud, kicking up dust in the arena. He doesn't hesitate for a second, instantly equipping his dual extreme iron swords to keep the pressure on. The spectators are losing their minds, genuinely confused about where he pulled those blades out of. One guy is straight up panicking, wondering how this kid is packing such high-tier gear out of nowhere. The duel turns into a blur of steel, with our hero closing the gap and forcing a clash. The knight is analyzing the fight in real time, noticing the speed of the attacks is ramping up. Sparks shower the arena as the knight's heavy plate deflects the rapid-fire strikes with ease. Our protagonist realizes his current setup is way too light to actually pierce that thick armor. The knight is feeling pretty smug, convinced that those fast, weak blades are basically just tickling him. He realizes that limiting the defense points actually makes his offensive strategy way more viable. With a quick flick of his wrist, he swaps his gear mid-combat to catch the knight off guard. Blood streaming down his face, he locks eyes with his opponent to deliver a chilling warning. Divine energy erupts around him as he prepares to channel the legendary techniques of the Night King. The system presents a menu of 20 rewards, forcing him to make a high-stakes choice. He zeroes in on the Extreme Iron Sword, noting its cheat-level effects despite the basic base stats. Picking two of the same item triggers the Extremity Set effect, which is exactly the power-up he needs. The system confirms the double acquisition, and he's clearly hyped that his gamble actually paid off. Red armor glowing, he readies his new dual blades to finally replicate the legendary swordsmanship. The clash intensifies as he forces the knight onto the defensive with his newfound, overwhelming speed. Our guy launches into a lethal strike, his eyes glowing with that cold, predatory focus. The challenger is completely spiraling, his brain melting as he tries to process this insane swordsmanship. He realizes the momentum has shifted, desperately looking for a way to escape the kill zone. The arena is literally turning into a web of death, leaving the knight trapped in a red nightmare. He's caught in a brutal cycle, getting pinned by the dual blades whenever he tries to retreat. Every time he tries to brute force his way out, the heavy sword slams him back into place. The knight's eyes are blown wide, questioning if this kind of god-tier style is even possible. It feels like the protagonist is literally rewriting the laws of physics to dominate the space. Hudson and Isabella are frozen in place, staring blankly as their brains fail to compute the scene. Even the challenger is left completely hollowed out, staring into the abyss of his own defeat. The sky literally splits as he unleashes the Night King's signature move, Heaven and Earth Upheaval. Shockwaves tear through the arena floor, turning the ground into a chaotic mess of debris. Our guy stands tall amidst the wreckage, his dual blades humming with that lethal, divine energy. The challenger is down for the count, completely wiped out and staring at his own defeat. Blood dripping from his face, our protagonist asks if they've finally seen enough to believe him. The Marquis's right-hand man, Lucas, is shaking in his boots, realizing they just messed with a legend. He looks like he's seen a ghost, his voice trembling as he addresses his lord. Marquis Weiser is finally waking up to reality, his face hardening as he processes the truth. He bows his head in total respect, ordering his men to treat the hero like royalty. The protagonist just smiles through the blood, knowing he's finally got the green light to save Serengeti. The Marquis is pouring his heart out, explaining how every healer and elixir failed to wake her. He even brought in the Saintess, but she basically gave up and called the curse unbeatable. Our guy just stands there, processing the intel with that signature, unbothered look on his face. Suddenly, his hidden talent kicks in. The great sage is officially online and ready to work. He confirms it's the Demon King's nasty work, which explains why the local holy magic did nothing. He tells the Marquis he's going to try an exorcism using star energy instead of standard mana. The Marquis is desperate but skeptical, asking if he's actually got a real plan to wake her. Our hero keeps it real, admitting he's only got one shot at this before he dips. He unleashes the blessing of the stars, flooding the room with blinding, divine light. The system burns through his energy, temporarily breaking the curse's limit until she finally wakes up. The room explodes with tension as Serengeti finally cracks her eyes open. Hudson is absolutely losing his mind, hovering over her like a frantic mess. She looks completely spaced out, struggling to process the world around her. Confusion hits her hard as she tries to figure out who this guy even is. Hudson is visibly crushed, his face twisting into a mask of pure raw heartbreak. He looks like he's about to shatter, realizing his devotion might not be enough. Serengeti just stares blankly, her mind still trapped in the fog of that long curse. We get a flashback to Hudson's internal monologue, showing his desperate, singular obsession. He swore he'd be her legs and her life, clinging to a hope that was honestly just toxic. Reality comes crashing down like shattered glass, proving his blind faith was just a selfish delusion. Serengeti's vitality is straight up vanishing, proving that time is a luxury she doesn't have. Her once vibrant face is turning into a hollow shell, losing the spark that made her who she was. Those arms that used to dominate on the battlefield are now just brittle, withered branches. Hudson is absolutely losing his mind, realizing that if the hero arrived a second later, she'd be gone. He's sobbing his eyes out, finally getting a chance to see her alive after all this time. She wakes up in a daze, totally confused and asking who the hell this guy is. The Marquis is still on edge, demanding to know what business this stranger has with his daughter. Our protagonist shuts the drama down, warning them that the Demon King's curse is still lurking. He drops the cold truth that she's only got a month of consciousness before she crashes again. The only way to fix this mess for good is to hunt down the remaining 4 stars. Our protagonist clears the room, needing a private moment to grill Serengeti about his own mysterious death. The Marquis is clearly losing his mind, demanding to know if this guy really promised to marry his daughter. He drops the hammer on the suitor, telling him flat out that he's never seeing her again. The poor guy is desperate, practically begging for a chance to prove his worth to the council. Marquis Weiser shuts him down with zero chill, making it clear this isn't about personal feelings. He explains the brutal financial reality, where the failed expedition left them drowning in debt. The city was forced to beg for scraps from the powerful house of Duke Scene. That massive loan came with a catch, forcing them to trade Serengeti like a piece of collateral. He gambled on the Duke's reputation to keep her safe, even if it meant losing his own family. The deadline is set for 1 month, and he's telling the suitor to just move on and forget her. Our guy sits by the bedside, watching Serengeti struggle to piece together who he even is. He drops the heavy truth about being Wilhelm's successor, looking her dead in the eye. She's clearly not buying it, gasping out that the Night King never had a successor. He keeps his cool, knowing he has to prove his connection to her deepest, darkest secrets. He brings up the day she first faced a star, highlighting her fear of losing herself. She's visibly shaken, her eyes wide as she realizes he knows things only she should know. We get a flashback to her in blue armor, standing tall before she became a transcendent. He explains that he finally understands her desperate need to keep her love for Hudson pure. The shock on her face is real as she questions how he could possibly know that. He finishes the reveal, confirming he was the one who gave her those final words of encouragement. Wilhelm stands on a cliffside, literally kicking Serengeti into gear with some tough love. Back in the present, Serengeti's eyes well up as she finally recognizes the legendary hero. Our guy confirms the identity swap, admitting his looks changed but his soul remains the same. He breaks down how he was just a player clicking buttons back in the day. That specific moment of encouragement was just one of 26 random inputs from a keyboard. But thanks to the star's successor class, he can now tap into the actual memories of the star. He explains that his previous coldness wasn't him, but the stoic personality of Wilhelm taking over. Serengeti asks if he's a sinner now, and he doesn't even try to sugarcoat the truth. He warns her that being a sinner puts a massive target on his back from the hunters. The scene shifts to a brutal flashback of a reaper taking out a sinner in the woods. The protagonist is convinced he landed the killing blow on the Demon King. He remembers carving a path of light straight into that monster's core. But in that final split second, everything went sideways. He felt his body start to disintegrate while the world just stopped. Losing consciousness was the last thing he remembers before the screen went black. And just like that, it was game over for the legendary hero. He's pressing Serengeti for the real story behind his brutal death. Flashback to the massive expedition, 200,000 elites ready for glory. They had the data and the perfect strategy to crush the demon realm. But despite all that planning, the battlefield ended in a total bloodbath. Wilhelm is kneeling in the dark, battered and broken as the purple aura swallows him whole. A priestess stands firm, channeling her final bit of energy to grant him a desperate blessing. He looks up with a bloody grin, admitting he's hit his limit but telling her to keep moving. His face is a mess of gore and exhaustion, yet he's still pushing everyone to hurry up. The hero accepts his fate, passing the torch and begging them to finish what he started. Tears stream down his face as he realizes all those sacrifices were just stepping stones to nowhere. He laments that despite the massive cost, they couldn't even scratch the Demon King's feet. Demonic soldiers crawl out of the shadows, their glowing red eyes signaling the end of the line. The enemies swarm them with terrifying precision, acting like they already knew every single plan. He finally realizes the truth. The entire expedition was rigged to fail by a traitor from within. The demons are swarming in, teeth bared and eyes glowing with pure, unadulterated malice. Our guy is staring down the abyss, wondering if this whole mission was rigged from the jump. But Wilhelm isn't folding, cutting through the dark with a flash of golden, divine energy. He obliterates the front line in one go, turning those monsters into literal dust. Looking at the carnage, he tells his squad to take a breather while he holds the line. Serengeti is watching him with wide eyes, completely shook by the sheer scale of his power. The Night King was basically a living god, making the demons look like absolute chumps. His single strike hits so hard it literally reshapes the entire battlefield, carving through the earth. That one man, armed with nothing but his blade, single-handedly carved a path through their despair. He stands there cold and focused, ready to finish the job that everyone else thought was impossible. Wilhelm is literally carrying the wounded Serengeti, telling her to just chill and save her energy. He's acting like a total boss, brushing off her concerns while keeping his eyes on the prize. They walk through the wreckage, realizing everyone else from their squad is basically toast. He looks at her with that heavy, final gaze, making it clear she needs to survive this. The guy starts roasting her for crying over Hudson every single night, which is honestly hilarious. Serengeti is immediately triggered, shouting back that she definitely didn't cry. She tries to walk back her denial, looking totally flustered and embarrassed. He just smirks, telling her to go live her best life and find someone to settle down with. Suddenly, a massive glowing purple magic circle erupts beneath them, signaling a total disaster. Serengeti is absolutely losing her mind, screaming out his name as the reality of his sacrifice hits. Wilhelm floats in the dark, his final command echoing as he forces Serengeti to survive. She clings to that memory, knowing the Night King sacrificed everything to grant her a future. The battlefield was a literal meat grinder, leaving carnage so thick no one could blame her for fleeing. She stares at the locket, dreaming of the day she could return to a normal, happy life. But the reality of the demon realm is a nightmare, forcing her to watch her hero fall. They stand in the purple haze, two warriors facing an impossible end while the world burns. Serengeti finally snaps back to the present, her heart breaking as she realizes the cost of her survival. She whispers an apology to Hudson, her voice trembling as the weight of the past crushes her. Our protagonist triggers a desperate position exchange, the air crackling with blue energy as he teleports. A massive explosion of purple mana tears through the ground, leaving him staring at the spot where she once stood. Serengeti breaks down how she survived the Demon King's trap, even after losing her legs. She credits that miracle to the elixir Wilhelm tossed her way before the final stand. Our protagonist listens intently, realizing the game's lore was way more chaotic than he thought. She explains how Wilhelm slapped a protection talisman on her to keep her hidden from the boss. That little piece of paper was the only reason she could watch the entire tragedy unfold. He nods, acknowledging he remembers the setup, but he's hunting for the real, hidden answers. She describes the moment the Demon King finally showed his ugly face to finish the job. Flashback to the battlefield, Wilhelm suddenly freezes in place, caught in a total time-stop nightmare. The Demon King gloats about his essence surviving, even if his physical body gets wrecked. He mocks the Night King one last time, acknowledging the legend while preparing to strike. The Demon King is absolutely losing his mind, desperate to hijack Wilhelm's body as a new vessel. Purple energy swirls into a chaotic vortex, tearing through the fabric of the battlefield. Suddenly, a blinding flash of golden light cuts through the darkness like a holy laser. The goddess Phina appears in all her radiant glory, and the Demon King is straight-up triggered. He starts roasting the goddess for her hypocrisy, accusing her of stealing the life of her own champion. She doesn't even have a comeback, looking completely stunned as the Demon King screams his lungs out. He vows to end her, his rage shaking the very ground as he prepares for a final, desperate strike. Back in the present, our guy is left hanging, realizing he's got zero memories of what happened next. He's left trying to piece together this divine conspiracy, wondering how the hell a goddess got involved. The scene shifts to the quiet ramparts of Knight's Garden, where the guards are just bored out of their minds. The guards are straight up gossiping about the estate being broke and everyone's pay being ghosted. They're staring out at the horizon, totally oblivious to the absolute chaos brewing in the distance. One guard suddenly stops mid-sentence, his face turning pale as he realizes something is dead wrong. A low, ominous rumble shakes the ground, signaling that the piece is about to be shattered. His eyes go wide with pure terror, catching a glimpse of something truly nightmare-inducing. A massive monster wave is surging toward them, looking like a literal tide of teeth and claws. The city walls are swarmed by these freaks, turning the entire place into a slaughterhouse. We get a trip down memory lane to the ancient war that started this whole mess. Goddess Rhea gets absolutely wrecked, bisected in a brutal display of divine power that changed everything. The entire continent just drops into the abyss, swallowed by a darkness that refuses to quit. The world literally fractured, leaving the survivors trapped behind walls of dark space. People poured insane amounts of cash into warp tech just to bridge the gap. These portals became the lifeline for everyone trying to navigate the broken continents of Pangea. But here is the kicker, these warps are basically wild cards cutting through dark space. Sometimes they glitch out, connecting to the wrong places and inviting absolute disaster inside. Monsters start pouring through the rift, turning the city into a total war zone. Our hero sits by the bed, connecting the dots on why his reality feels so broken. He realizes the Demon King's attempt to hijack his body was interrupted by a divine intervention. That blue screen of death wasn't just a system crash, it was a hard-coded wall. It looks like the game was rigged from the start to ensure he never wins. Our guy is finally putting the pieces together, realizing he isn't just some random user. He's a player who got dropped into this mess, and that's the real reason he's here. The rules are brutal. You only get summoned as a player when your main character kicks the bucket. But since Wilhelm wasn't his first death, he's starting to see the pattern behind the madness. You basically become a player the moment the strongest character you were grinding finally dies. He used to treat these characters like disposable trash, abandoning them the second they hit a wall. That's why he wasn't summoned before. The power gap just wasn't big enough to trigger the system. Now he's locked in, fully aware that he needs to hunt down every traitor who sabotaged his expedition. He's also betting the Demon King is still alive and pulling the strings behind this whole player summoning scheme. Just as he's mapping out his revenge, someone interrupts his thoughts by calling him the Holy Awakener. A panicked guard sprints into the room, screaming that the city is facing a total disaster. Our protagonist's expression hardens instantly, his eyes narrowing as he realizes the gravity of the situation. Standing amidst the growing chaos, he prepares to face the encroaching threat head-on. The city is burning in the background, a hellscape of fire and encroaching shadows. Soldiers are getting absolutely shredded by a wave of monsters, their lines collapsing under the pressure. He confirms the worst, noting that a monster wave has breached the nearby warp point. Frustration boils over as he calls out the Marquis for his pathetic failure to manage the funds. Horses gallop through the flames, carrying the desperate remnants of the city's defense force. Marquis Weiser is spotted fleeing the scene, choosing to save his own skin over his people. The protagonist watches him go, his gaze cold and calculating as he recognizes the coward in his sights. The squad is standing in the middle of a literal inferno, demanding answers from the locals. They get the grim news that the city is already toast thanks to the monster wave. 3 separate warps have gone haywire, turning the east, west, and south into absolute death traps. Our guy is losing his mind, realizing the scale of this disaster is way beyond manageable. A desperate knight begs for his help, practically waving his sword around like a total amateur. The system drops a massive main quest, warning him that the abyss is about to spill over. He stares at the screen in disbelief, wondering why the game is trolling him with quests now. The guard is screaming that they're tapped out, their power level just isn't cutting it anymore. He shuts down the emotional pleas, knowing that sentimentality is a luxury they can't afford. The timer is ticking down, and he knows if those hybrids show up, it's game over. He's dead serious, confirming that nobody in this squad is ready to scrap with a hybrid. The only play is to shut down those 3 warps before the 10-minute timer hits 0. But he's looking at the situation with a cold eye, knowing their combat power is straight-up trash. Regular soldiers are busy holding the line, leaving only the 3 of them to handle the heavy lifting. It's a suicide mission, trying to push through a legion of monsters while closing those portals. The odds are absolute garbage, making this whole plan feel like a massive losing gamble. He's fixated on the Golden Rule shop perk, knowing he can't just walk away from that potential power. The timing is completely cursed, and he knows he can't tackle the main quest without some serious prep. He's tempted to just bail and save his own skin, since playing the hero is a one-way ticket to death. But then the city erupts in screams, and the carnage proves that running away isn't an option anymore. The city is turning into a total slaughterhouse, with monsters hacking through civilians like it's nothing. Our guy is screaming in pure agony, his world collapsing as he watches his people get erased. Priest Andrew is barely hanging on, being dragged to safety while the chaos rages all around them. A desperate knight is rallying his men, charging into the fray to buy them a few more seconds. They're pushing hard to clear a path, but the monster wave is relentless and honestly overwhelming. One strike from the shadows takes a monster's head clean off, showing that our hero is finally locked in. The tension is peaking as they argue over the priest, knowing he's the only hope left for the survivors. Andrew refuses to abandon the dying, his stubbornness making the situation even more of a nightmare. A freakish monster lunges for the kill, forcing our protagonist to step up and intercept the attack. Everything freezes for a split second as the reality of the priest's danger hits home. Sister May is absolutely putting in work, slicing through a monster with cold, calculated precision. She's a total beast with that dagger, turning the battlefield into her personal playground. Meanwhile, the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife as the group faces the end. Our guy is laying down the law, telling everyone that if they want out, now is the time. He's holding a stash of elixirs like they're the only thing keeping them from total oblivion. The squad is firing back with pure sass, pointing out that comfort hasn't existed since they joined him. He cuts the chatter with a sharp command, his focus locked entirely on the mission ahead. He's internally roasting the quest, knowing it's a suicide run that no sane person would touch. The reason he's actually doing this isn't for the glory or to save some random NPCs. It's definitely not about pity or loyalty, because he's playing a much deeper, darker game. He's making it crystal clear that his motivation isn't some sappy guilt trip. Instead, he drops the wildest flex, admitting he's just a total freak for the grind. That smirk on his face says it all. He's absolutely loving the chaos of this death game. He rallies the troops, staring down the monster horde like they're just XP waiting to be farmed. The demons are swarming the gate, their glowing red eyes promising a total bloodbath. One of the knights is losing his mind, screaming that a head-on charge is basically suicide. Our guy doesn't even blink, shutting down the panic with a cold, calculated demand for a better plan. He points out that destroying the warp is the only way to stop this nightmare for good. The knight finally commits, gripping his reins and screaming for the charge to begin. Massive tentacles slam down from the sky, turning the city gate into a literal hellscape. The protagonist locks eyes with his ally, his expression a mix of desperation and pure, unadulterated trust. He's counting on the successor of Lord Wilhelm to pull off a miracle in this absolute hellscape. A sinister smirk creeps across his face as he acknowledges the long, grueling run they've just endured. Suddenly, a spear whistles through the air, marking the exact moment they enter the enemy's kill zone. Impact is immediate as the weapon shatters against a barrier, sparks flying like a fireworks display gone wrong. He doesn't hesitate for a second, slamming a teleport book into action to bridge the gap. A massive, swirling rift tears open in the sky, connecting them directly to the heart of the Russell Forest. The forest elves emerge from the portal, looking ready to turn the tide with their legendary archery. Their leader steps forward, declaring his intent to repay a debt of grace to his old friend. A literal rain of arrows descends from the heavens, turning the monster horde into a pincushion of defeat. The guy on the horse is absolutely losing his mind, staring at the chaos with pure, unadulterated shock. He can't believe the Dryads actually showed up to bail them out of this absolute nightmare. Our protagonist keeps his cool, realizing that his past grind in the Russell Forest is finally paying off. He reflects on that old subquest, remembering how he gifted a spirit just for a little extra loot. It turns out that random interaction unlocked a massive achievement and a permanent connection to the forest. He realizes that being a completionist in the past was actually a stroke of pure tactical genius. The monsters are still swarming the gate, but the tide is about to turn in a major way. He stares down the enemy, knowing that having friends in high places is the ultimate cheat code. The Dryad archer steps up, channeling a massive amount of energy into his bow to clear the path. He fires a blinding beam of light, literally carving a way through the darkness for our heroes. A massive explosion rocks the battlefield, sending debris flying like shrapnel in every direction. The monsters are getting absolutely shredded, their gray skin tearing apart under the sheer force. Dust and blood fill the air as the shockwave clears a path through the chaos. Our squad charges through the wreckage on horseback, pushing forward while the ground still trembles. The knights are looking absolutely stressed, their eyes wide and teeth gritted in pure survival mode. A roar of triumph echoes across the field as the team realizes they actually survived that hit. The commander is screaming that they've secured a win, his face twisted in a wild grin. Our protagonist watches the carnage with a smirk, knowing this is just a level 9 boss. He raises his sword high, cutting through the noise to snap everyone back to reality. The celebration gets cut short because he knows the real nightmare is only just beginning. The clock is ticking down with only 6 minutes left before the hybrid spawns. Our guy maps out the strategy, demanding they split into 3 units to hit the warps. The knights are looking completely stressed, questioning how they can possibly pull off such a split. He stays ice cold, explaining that while the Dryads hold the main force, the warps are still guarded. They argue that splitting their limited forces into 3 is basically a death sentence for everyone. He acknowledges the risk, but insists that 2 units simply won't cover the ground in time. The commander is losing his cool, demanding to know who will handle the final, dangerous warp. He drops the bombshell that he and Priest Andrew will take on that last portal alone. Everyone is staring in total disbelief, wondering if he's finally lost his mind with this plan. He tells them to just trust the process, and with a final nod, they charge into the dust. Hudson is sweating bullets, grilling the crew on whether there's actually a solid plan. But the others aren't having it, telling him to stop doubting the hero's insane track record. They know he's a miracle worker who pulls off the impossible, so they just need to execute. Our guy and the priest are walking into the void, keeping their eyes on the final warp. The priest is clearly stressed, wondering how just 2 dudes are supposed to handle that heat. He tells the old man to zip it for a second while he calculates the winning move. The squad is already moving out to hit the other warps, hoping to clear the path. He's locked in on the Dark Warrior, knowing the skeletal nightmare is the real final boss. He grips that glowing red summoning token, ready to drop the ultimate ace up his sleeve. A massive Hydreigon erupts into reality, leaving the priest absolutely shook by the sheer scale of the summon. The system UI flashes a terrifying warning about the black-skinned hybrid. Time is bleeding away as the countdown hits 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Our guy is hacking through the fodder, his blade moving like a blur of steel. He and the priest are locked in a desperate, teeth-gritting struggle for survival. Leaping into the fray, he prepares to deliver a strike that could change everything. The battlefield is a total mess of gore as the Hydreigon tears through the front line. He stares at the screen with absolute intensity, knowing the conditions for victory are finally met. A massive surge of energy erupts from the warp, signaling the arrival of the final threat. Out of the swirling vortex steps a mutated monster, radiating pure cold malice. The Dark Warrior emerges in a blaze of blue flames, ready to end the game for good. He's locked in with a cold, focused stare, knowing the final hurdle is right in front of him. Priest Andrew channels every ounce of his green energy to buff the protagonist, while the system timer counts down to a brutal 28 seconds.